Welcome back to the MEO Rip Curl Pro Portugal. Another big heat hitting the lineup for you now. Heat 9 of round 1, Joel Parkinson, Jean Deroux and Nat Young fighting it out for a place in round 3. Ronnie Blakey here with Strider Wazalewski, and in the last hour or so we've seen the conditions jump in size. It's cleaning up, and we have the potential, Strider, to perhaps see the wave of the year here on the first day of competition in Peniche.
We might even have seen one of the waves of the year, but it was unwritten. There was some crazy waves coming through the competition area and absolutely unloading, getting that vantage from the beach and the shoreline. Absolutely maniac out there. These guys charging into a Jean Deroux, pulling up, finding himself a nice little cover up, but nothing too crazy, trying to dismount into the oncoming wall. Looked like one of those moves where he likes to hit himself, and he just went for it again.
We have seen some unbelievable waves breaking. Obviously these guys have got to find themselves in the right time. They got to chase down these big corners. But Jean Deroux making a big jump up the ratings with another solid performance at stop number 9 in 16th position, and locked in a battle now for the Rookie of the Year title. He has been super impressive and obviously feeling very at home during this European League.
Yeah, being at home is a definite check in the comfort zone. But I'll be honest, Ronnie, comfort in this lineup is yet to be had, I think. It's so heavy out there, so much water moving, and the amount of lip line that you're seeing coming through and falling is just so intense. The weight of what we're seeing, guys over there in the competitors area really realizing it, a couple of gulps going down before heats, and watching their fellow competitors take this stuff on head first. They're just literally giving each other mad props from the competitors area and pats on the back.
At some stage during this heat, we might just try and get one of our roving cameras to hit the shoreline there and get a look across that flat water and just see how tall some of those walls are, because from this elevated perspective, feels like a couple of feet are sort of taken off the size of these waves. Joel Parkinson out in the lineup, currently in 9th position, the 36-year-old veteran from Snapper Rocks. And he's a guy that loves a tricky lineup. You think about some of the places where he's had great success, in Hawaii in particular, and he just seems to be one of those guys that seems to make sense of tricky lineups very well.
Definitely. I think he's one of those guys that thrives on the juice as well, and he loves to just get underneath it, and that's what you have to do today as the waves will approach. You see Nat Young there paddling on screen, and he's had some great success out here, making it through to a final. It is just, I do think though that this is the biggest and cleanest that we've seen the waves out here so far in this event as a whole ever. Have we ever seen it bigger than this and this clean?
It is huge, and as we mentioned, you know, those special ones, they're kind of rare at the moment, but if we see someone scratch into one of those things and get spat out, it could be the ride of the year. But here you go, a replay of Jean Deroux throwing it over the ledge.
Oh my gosh. So the dismount, he was just up on top of it. And when you're paddling into these waves, you know, you've got to time it. You can see he's just on the backside of that lump, and that thing just sucked out on the sandbar, sending him into the air. A beautiful pencil drop. So you hit the pencil drop, so you put your feet down first to try and penetrate and have the wave go over you as fast as possible, and then you pop out the back, which I believe is what happened there. You can actually get away with, you know, jumping off of a 2-story building and actually just popping right out of the back without even being rolled into it or touched. Basically hold your breath for about 5 seconds and you're right out the back. So there's so much technique and little nuances that happen while riding big waves, and what's happening, you know, while you're doing a simple dismount like that if you don't have that in your game, well, you're gonna pay.
Absolutely. Well, wave selection obviously a crucial part, and just finding a couple of waves that are going to give you the exit is the challenge out there for the competitors at the moment. But an honour to be sitting next to you, Strider. I know this is the kind of surf that you've dedicated your career to, and we're going to give you the opportunity to break down the technique of the world's best as they try and take off on some of these seriously slabbing waves. But there is just so much water moving, and you know, no one, as you said, is comfortable at this stage of the game. Even the heat winners at the moment, although they're elated, they're taking some serious lickings on their way to those victories in this first round.
Yeah, 100%. You know, and it's one of those enjoyable moments for the entire event, right? Everybody, from the commentators to the surfers to the spectators to the judges, everybody is enthralled in what's happening. You've got so much water moving out there. You can feel the intensity when you go down to the shoreline and even up here on the scaffolding. So it's really, really fun to be a part of an event when it's like this and there's so much going on. And knowing, like paddling out into that lineup, watching those guys run down the beach just now when they were going into this heat, and the intensity in their eyes, and looking out, watching the sets, having the time, just getting into the water before the heat starts. It's all part of the heat before the heat, you know what I mean?
Definitely. I mean, we've seen some amazing surfing in 2017, some groundbreaking surfing at certain events, but we haven't had an event yet this year where there has been the opportunity for someone to maybe get the barrel of their life in competition. And that opportunity is certainly present at the moment. You go down the competitors area right now and it is buzzing. You know, I think people are enjoying the spectacle of watching these guys challenged as well. We're seeing huge wipeouts, but as I mentioned, that dream ride could be just around the corner.
Yeah, well, and there's another thing with that dream ride is having the right equipment under your feet to actually be able to execute that amazing wave that's coming at you. You know, entering these waves on and getting underneath them and having enough foam under your feet to actually drive into it, you know, with a tapered rail. These guys are all riding basically brand new boards. You know, they haven't been on bigger boards all year, really. Not like this.
Well, Michel Perez, he's still probably pulling the sand out of his ears after that last heat win, taking a lot of beatings in his first round effort. But the hard work paid off. He's into the third round. He's with Rosie.
Joel Perez with a well-deserved win. Blood, sweat and tears out there. What did it take to win that heat?
Oh, it was a triathlon out there, you know, like swimming, running, surfing, and I was kind of dying, you know. I caught those waves and I got caught a couple times, like waves on my head and stuff, and I was just surviving out there.
And the 8.5 was so impressive. Were there any waves that you wish you had gone on?
There was one wave just before that. I just looked at it, and then when I was trying to turn around, I touched my board, and I could feel like it was broken. It was creased already. So I was like, no, I'm not going to risk on that. But if my board was all right, I would have gone for sure, you know. But luckily, there was another one right after that. I told myself, just go, and we see what's going to happen.
So how stoked are you that you put in the hard work and the training for days like these?
Yeah. Man, I'm so, you know, that's what I made the tour for. You know, to surf waves like this, like, it's pumping out there, you know, and it doesn't matter who you are. It's just a matter about, like, having fun and catch the right wave. And, you know, it's super difficult, but when you're on the right spot and you just go for it, and it gets dreamy, yeah.
Impressive surfing, and we look forward to more great performances. Well done.
Thank you, Rosie, and great to get the insight on why Michel Perez didn't swing on that bomb. He had a buckled board, and at that stage, he was chasing the lead. So it was a crucial decision that he had to make. I'm sure if he had his time over and that board was in one piece, he would have swung for sure. But the wave he's talking about unloaded big time. During the interview, this one rolled through for the man in white, Nat Young.
A beautiful, deep, nice line into that wave on the backhand, grabbing the rail, finishing off with a couple of beautiful little hacks there on the, you know, this is a great execution of a backside tube by grabbing the rail, holding the wall, engaging it, staying centered over his board, which is very important because you get too far forward, the foam ball could throw you off. You get too far back, you're going to go, you know, over the back of the board, and he just perfectly was centered over his weight and came right through it and then hit the lip. So some great surfing right there. It was a much smaller wave than what's on offer, but it was a very clean, perfect little nugget that he rode really well. I mean, I'm impressed, and he's got a lot of history out here, so he's got to be feeling confident.
Definitely. Finaled here in the past, lost that final to Kai Otten in a very close one, but Nat Young kicks off this heat with a 7-point ride. So very clever with his wave selection there, just finding a wave that, you know, maybe wasn't going to provide a huge barrel, but gave him the opportunity to go to some turns at the end there.
You know, going back to Michel Perez's interview there, he said, this is why I wanted to make this tour, to surf on days like today. And that was one of the, like, chicken skin feel-good moments of the day for me, to hear a competitor talk about surfing waves like these and how excited they get and pushing themselves. And I mean, look at this. It is just absolutely throbbing out there. There's just giant lip lines falling. You got to go through the paddle. You got to go through the wave riding. You got to go through the running up the beach. I mean, this is just full throttle.
Definitely. And it is definitely a different kind of condition for a championship tour event in 2017. We've had really clean waves at different stops. Tahiti didn't really fire like it has in the past in 2017. Cloud break had its moments, but not one of the biggest years. So these are some of the heaviest conditions that we've seen on the schedule all season, and they couldn't have come at a better time with the world title race heating up. Obviously a Rookie of the Year race also unfolding here with Juan Daru locked in that. He's out in the water at the moment, but also the quest for those surfers at the back end to get into the top 22 to requalify for next year's championship tour. Nat Young in 14th position on the QS, looking pretty good on 29th spot on the CT. He's got his work cut out to make the top 22. He'll have to probably final at the last two events of the season, but he's going to give it his best. Certainly a great start. Joel Parkinson out there at the moment with priority. Very quiet at the moment, waiting for his best opportunity to lock a big number in. He's almost halfway through this heat without a ride.
You got to go through the, oh, here you go.
So making a move now, the 2012 world champ and pipe master. And he tucks in, he'll find the exit. Super casual. So his patience paying off there. It was a good sized wave. And it never looked like he wasn't coming out.
You know, what you just saw right there on screen, when you come off of a wave and you have to paddle back out and you're looking out over the next wave, there's nothing like that. You've got your heart's in your throat. You've just gotten a great wave. But after you get to play, you always feel like you're going to pay. And here we go on the play, dropping in, beautiful line, up high, driving, finds the way out. He was deep right there, completely disappeared. The wave not completely top to bottom throttling, so making it even harder for him to draw a line. You see how he comes off the bottom and has to drive up high, and he's realigning up high in that wave. So definitely not an easy tube to ride. Read it really well, came out the end with speed and exited that thing with a lot of flow. So I love it. It's going to be a great number for him. Joel Parkinson, smooth as ever.
Huge score, an 8.93. The second best number of the event so far. Only three surfers getting into the excellent range at this point in time. Jack Freestone with the highest ride of the contest, a 9-point ride in his winning effort earlier today, and Michel Perez had an 8.5, but Joel drops a big one against Nat Young and Juan Daru here with just under 15 minutes to go. Really making good use of that priority.
We'll see if Juan Daru has regathered himself after jumping off that two-story building.
Let's try and get another replay of that wipeout from Juan Daru, because I just think sometimes you're watching these waves, these guys are throwing themselves over the ledge. When you watch them in slow motion, you start to see just how cupped out these faces are, how bowled out they are, and just how tall they are. That was a big fall, and I think even Michel Perez in his previous heat, one of the reasons he maybe didn't go that set is just prior to that, he pulled into one of the biggest waves of the day. And that's going to, include a bit of recovery time.
Definitely. You got to reboot, and you get a lot of headspace before you hit the water. And you get out there, and you got to deal with everything at hand, and then you paddle into it, and you jump off into it, where it's just, this thing is heaving. They're jumping from the top and flying into it. All that water coming over the top of you. Look at how high that white water was after it broke. It's just exploding, and then it compresses and pushes you in and out the back, hopefully. And there's just so much going on right there. Literally the backwash of that wave after you came up, if you made it out of the back, would have hit you in the face. You probably would have gobbled some water. You'd have to regain, sit on your board, and think about, oh, I paddled into that wave thinking I had it. Next thing you know, I was airborne, and I had to figure out my exit. So these guys having to go over the motions, get back in the saddle, and get ready for their next wave, and do it all in a 30-minute heat.
I thought you brought up a great point there, just the paddling. Obviously, you want to be super committed when you're trying to take off on a really steep wave. And Joel, one of the best paddlers on tour, super fast. So once he's committed, you know, he's got a bit of momentum once he commits to that wave and gets to his feet.
Yeah, and with that commitment, it's got to be placed in the right, you know, area of the wall as you're going into it. If you're too far down it, you're going to end up kind of almost too far underneath it, whereas you'll almost start to lose speed as you stand up. And if you're too far on top of it, you're going to end up in the lip going over the falls. And you have to place yourself just in that nook that's going to drop you in without leaving the face to set a rail to find the rest of the wall and ride the wave, which is not easy to do on a day like today with the conditions.
Such a fine line, isn't it? And there's certain surfers that do it so well, and it's limited paddle strokes that they take. They almost let the wave kind of catch up to them. They're right under the lip, and then they'll just give it two big power strokes and get themselves up to their feet. And, you know, I think the Hobgood brothers were probably the best at it in Tahiti. The wave would already be barreling over them, and they'd somehow get to their feet with that low center of gravity and maintain that control into the barrel.
Such a pleasure to watch. Timing is everything in life and in the water. Here we go. Look at this thing. Beautiful. Joel Parkinson on his 893 flies out the end of that thing. So he was moving. You can see as he pumped into it right here, he's got so much speed down the line. All the weight's on the front foot. Comes out the end. And you see how he had to stay high through the whole thing. Riding high through a barrel, it's so wearing on your thought that you're going to just get lipped in the head. So you have to, your torso has to stay low, your legs have to stay engaged and pressing on that inside rail. And then right at the end, you can open up to try and get the exit as strong as possible, because you never know if that lip is going to hit you in the head here, especially on a day like today.
But the theory in riding high on the wall is you're avoiding that foam ball and that turbulence in the bottom of the barrel, correct?
Exactly. So especially on a wave like that, where it was kind of an almondy one that was a little higher, and even on the bigger opener, you know, more open throaty ones, that water hits and all the water thrusts forward. You see that big explosion in front of a wave, but inside of those tubes, there's a little reverb of white water that's going to go thrown at you, and you've got to avoid that at all costs. And you can sometimes ride over it, but it really is, they call it the tube monster, and it's for a good reason, because it just grabs you and rattles you and throws you down, and you know, it'll have its way with you, and it's just not what you want in a heat, especially you know, trying to get yourself onto an excellent score. Joel obviously avoided the tube monster, finding his way through, weaving over the top of him, highlining in that barrel.
So just under 10 minutes remaining here in this heat, and Joel Parkinson has the lead, but he's on the lookout for a backup score, because Nat Young not too far behind at this stage. Nat has a 7-point ride, so he's still within reach. Juan Daru taking one of the beatings of the event so far. He's chasing a 5.61 to jump up into the first position at this stage, but Joel's the danger man, as we see yet another monster line standing up on the sandbar here and unloading. And the crowd down there on the beach is pretty thick. October 21st, it's a Saturday here on the beach at Super Tubos. And I think quite a few belongings have been claimed by the ocean down there. There's been some big surges rolling up the beach, and it's caught the crowd out a couple of times.
Yeah, just while I was down there myself, I captured a few shoes, some sandals, a bag full of clothes, gave them back to the owners down there on the beach. It was intense, and a lot like Kaiki Shorebreak, you don't want to let your kid or your dog close to that. It's just going to suck them right in.
So just under 9 minutes to go now, and Joel Parkinson still hanging on to that lead. We'll see if he can lock in a backup right after the break. You're watching day one of competition here at the MEO Rip Curl Pro Portugal.
around the streets go, hunting around the beats go, in when the lights came home. They call me Kirby King, respect me like you heard of him, remember when we used to run around the streets go, hunting around the beats go, in when the lights came home. They call me Kirby King, respect me like you heard of him, remember when.
Love checking out the town of Peniche each season when we come back to Portugal for the Rip Curl Pro. Right now, Heat 9 out in the lineup. Joel Parkinson with one of the best single rides of the event so far, an 8.93, but he's still on the lookout for a backup. Nat Young currently in second position with priority and a chance to take the lead here. He needs a 1.94. Juandaru counting on just a 3.33 at this stage and looking for a 5.61 to make the jump up into first. Ronnie Hill is Strider. And we're amping Strider especially because these are the kind of conditions, Strider, that you love. What made you fall in love with surfing slabbing, throaty, life-threatening waves like this?
Believe it or not, it was a day in Santa Monica when I was really young, about 10 years old, and it was a wind swell. I got absolutely throttled, wave after wave. I was just gasping for air. I made it to the outside, and I sat up on my surfboard, and I said, wow, that was amazing. And I got so excited about almost like getting donuts and dying that I was so into it. I just kept that love affair with the adrenaline. I think that it came from within, and well, ever since I enjoyed surfing hollow beach breaks, and reef breaks, and all the rest of it.
Well, it's good to be here calling these heats with you, mate. And right now, 5.5 minutes to go, and it just feels from the competitors, from that area, those guys that are yet to paddle out, that everyone's feeling that same buzz. Everyone's chasing that same adrenaline charge. And we've seen it from Joel Parkinson putting away an 8.93. Juandaru picked off this one during the break.
A nugget, huh? Just pulling in behind it, trying to find something, but big whitewater section pushing down on him. He's not going to come through that. Work to be done. The flow of these heats, too, it's one of those things where the ocean kind of goes through it, where it's just pumping, and then it's, there's still waves, but, there's so much chatter on the water after the sets coming in over and over and over again, and then it kind of pulls back and it mellows out again, and you just don't know what you're going to get.
And I guess that's the interesting thing for you, surfing waves like this, obviously when it's pretty sizey, and outside of competition, you can really afford to be patient and you can wait for that wave that's going to stand up, give you the best opportunity, a fantastic barrel ride. In a 30-minute heat, you're going to have to roll the dice. You're going to have to swing on some waves that maybe you only have a small chance of making, and we've seen that a few times already in this heat.
Yeah, I said it earlier. I wouldn't want to have to go out in these conditions and try to make it happen in 30 minutes because you're trying to make it happen. My affair with the ocean and everything that we get done out there, we see these beautiful waves being ridden right here. Nat Young finding some tube time again. It's one of those things where you got to get in rhythm with it, and trying to find rhythm is hard.
Joel Parkinson at the moment has the flow, already counting on an 8.93, setting up another tube here. This will be the backup that he was after. Out onto the open face, chucks his board up into the pocket, and he'll get the completion on that final manoeuvre. So it won't be anywhere near as high as his 8.93, but he just wanted to get a second score on the board at this stage.
I think he saw a head nod in there, and he knew that was what it was going to take to put himself into another place in this heat. Here we go, he glides in. It looked a lot like the wave he got the highest score on, and I think he played it safe because he knew he needed to complete this wave and get himself back up on the board with only 3 minutes left in the heat. He's going to want to, secure that position. So the wave will go good. It's not going to go excellent. He's going to hit the beach, and it'll be interesting to see if he actually gets back out into the lineup. I don't think so.
Just under 3 minutes to go. We know Joel Parkinson in 9th position is out of title contention, but that doesn't mean he can't jump a few places if those surfers on the Jeep leaderboard above him fail to progress through some of these earlier rounds. So that's the goal for Joel, get as high on the ratings as possible and set up another big run at it for 2018. For Juandaru, he's chasing that Rookie of the Year title, locked in a fierce battle with Frederico Moraes and Connor O'Leary, and then Nat Young. I mean, he might be out of reach of a top 22 spot, but, well positioned on the QS, and this is just a big opportunity for him to obviously lock in a big result, collect some good prize money, and get his flow back before potentially getting back on the championship tour next season.
Yeah, it's the end of the year is always interesting to see how these guys are going to react, you know, and there's Joel on the beach, like we talked about. I don't think he's going to go for a paddle back out there. He had 3 minutes, but when he hit the beach, he had about 3 minutes, and with the amount of water moving out there and everything that's going on and all the kids and the fans and the selfies, and there's just so much going on. I think he took his leash off, so everybody kind of knew he was ready for a selfie, but yeah, there's just too much to do to try and get back out through all that.
Definitely. A 4.57 makes it pretty difficult for Joan Daru. He's chasing a 2-wave total, but we'll keep a very close eye on Nat Young, because he only needs a 6.51 to turn this with 1.5 minutes remaining. So nervous times for Paco as he watches on from the beach. Scrambling at the moment to get in a position here is Joan Daru. He just wants to find that big vision. And here he goes, having a look at this one. Can't quite get into it. And a good-looking wave, too.
You know what's interesting is that I think Nat had kind of figured that Joan was going to get that right. And from where Nat was, he might have been able to thread the needle on that right and get the score. Here he is.
Well, Nat's taken off. A late drop, and he only just pulled the nose up before going down right under the lip, but he hangs on, and the wave catches up. Knocks him off his board, 45 seconds to go. It won't be the 6.51 that he needed.
Nope. He just got smashed by that thing, too. You see the explosion behind him, just gave him a shockwave through his back. It looked like he just had to arc it up. But watch this drop. He's very focused at the moment, pushing over the ledge. You see his fins disengaged there. Looked over his shoulder to go for the bottom turn. At least he set the fin, but then this thing exploding behind him. Watch the shockwave come up over him. Boom! Just water out of the screen. Right here's another one. Again, boom, off the back. So that's pushing water, slams you. You're going down. You're going to go for another little ride. Oh, man, the ride after the ride. I love it.
So a 2.27 for Nat Young, not enough. This heat is coming to a close. Joel Parkinson, the top seed in this one, he's going to wrap it up. And the current world number 9 making the jump directly through to round 3 with a heat score total of 13.5. Next up, another big heat. Chloe Andino will be taking on Connor O'Leary and Miguel Pupo. That's just around the corner. Stay with us. Rip Curl Pro Portugal has given some amazing moments over the years, and we're looking for more here as we approach heat number 10 of round 1. Kolohe Andino, Connor O'Leary and Miguel Pupo looking for a place in the third round. Andino looking very strong up there in France. A good performance from him. A semi-final finish saw him jump the leaderboard 2 spots, and he can go further ahead. Connor O'Leary, meanwhile, wants to keep on track for that Rookie of the Year title. He surrendered that Rookie of the Year race lead to Federico Moraes up there in France with a poor result. Miguel Pupo, didn't he do well up there in Hossegor? Quarter-final finish, surfing. Big jump for him too.
Beautiful surfing. I mean, absolutely attacking the lip, backhand, just smooth as silk. I loved it.
So up 4 spots for Miguel after a quarter-final at the last event. Let's see how far he can get through this draw. 27 minutes to go and no waves ridden just yet.
Well, we'll find out what the ocean has to offer here as we get the ocean to settle down a little bit. It's just been throbbing, but if you look outside, you can just see the lines approaching still. So Surfline's forecast, whew, they said it was going to be pumping, and they were not wrong.
Plenty of swell filling in, expected to hold, peak through the night, and then there'll be plenty here tomorrow as well. And good conditions.
And the winds are supposed to be even more favorable tomorrow. I think the size will be more favorable for the sandbars. It's like this bay in this corner, the way the water comes in, it almost fills up too much when the waves are this big. Yet it's very clean, and there are waves with the opportunity for a wave of a lifetime coming in.
Well, taking a medium-sized set to get things started here and looking for an exit, and he'll find it, is Miguel Pupo. So a nice bit of cover for him. And a good way to kick off the heat, just completing it right.
Smart to get the flow going too. Let's just hope that he makes it back out without being demolished.
Big year for Miguel, hasn't it been? No major sponsor. Lost his major sponsor at the start of the year after welcoming a new baby to the family, and he's been really struggling to lock in big results, but this will give him a bit of confidence. A nice start to this one.
Yeah, and he finds his way out of that wave, which on the backhand is really hard to do. On the forehand, you can kind of push through the wall and use your weight on that front foot. Looks like he's going to regroup, come back in, run up the beach, and redo his attempt here, as he should. I mean, there's just so much water moving down the way there. But on the backside, to come out of a barrel through the lip line, it's not easy. And you can kind of use your tripod style, so to speak, where you have your hand on the rail and your feet, and you're kind of pushing over the front to try and push out. That's definitely not an easy task. So nice work by Miguel Pupo. Getting a little opener there and finding something.
Just a 3.67, so he'll do the run around. No keyhole here. So these surfers, they're running up the beach just to fight that rip. But you really do have to punch your way through some pretty heavy set waves if you're going to get back to that takeoff zone. So a lot of work, a lot of energy goes into these heats for the competitors.
And there he is running.
Well, it ain't no comp cord. You can tell that that's a pretty long leash.
I took that notice earlier that these guys are using some cables, and for good reason. There's a lot of water moving out there, and it pulls on the leash so hard. So the stronger the leash, the quicker you're getting your board back as well. And sometimes when you have a thinner leash, it pulls your leash so long, and your board just becomes an anchor, just getting sucked away from you, which also poses the threat of being stuck in the impact zone for longer. The next wave annihilates you, and you just got to keep dealing with it more and more. So the thicker leash will get your board back to you quicker.
Andino having a look at this one. Late takeoff. Fading to set up this section. Kickstall into the barrel. He'll find the exit, and that's a good start for Kolohe. Nice read on that opening ride. Love the way he faded back to find that bowl.
Great surfing. So here we go. That's Connor O'Leary live action.
So Connor just stalling, grabbing that wall, getting some cover, and he's able to hang on. He just punched through the bottom of the curtain there. So a pretty solid opening exchange from all three competitors. Miguel, a 3.67, expecting maybe something a bit bigger for Kolohe Andino because he picked off the bigger ride of the three.
Gets in with ease, comes off the bottom, eyeballs it, sees his opportunity, kick stalls into it, and then realizes he's got to race out of there, so he does a pump line through it. Conor O'Leary straight into the barrel. Gets more of a cover up on the end there, but nothing too dramatic, so it's not going to be a very big score. He did finish it out. Great technique, laying that body onto the wall will slow you down, grabbing that rail, pulling that rail up, and staying on it, front foot pushing over, and using the gauge of the hand to keep you off the wall to figure out where you're going to be, and then pushing through the lip to come out at the end there.
Sometimes you see the wave almost looks like it's breathing, and that lip was kind of clamping on Conor, so he did well to hang on and bust through the bottom of the curtain there.
This is the taxing part right here, because paddling and surfing is one of those things where you're really used to the two of them. But the runaround, this is the part where your cardio is going to play in, and then once you go from the run to the paddle, it's just like a run swim. It takes a lot out of you. There's so much, you're using those bigger muscles in your legs, but that affects your lung capacity. So when you go from the run to the swim, which is the paddle, it really affects you. And then you get that, waves on the head. I think that's Miguel Pupo just getting hammered after he just did the runaround.
He is. He's even bailing a couple of these waves. What do you do, Strider, in that situation? Do you let the board go, or do you like to hang on to it?
It just depends on where you are. If you're in that magic spot where the wave's hitting, just 10 feet before you and the wave's going to go over you, then you can get the duck dive, kind of turn sideways and duck dive and pop through it. But if you are within that like 3 to 5 foot range where the lip's going to carry its momentum onto you, I'm over it. Bail the board, pop up, get out, grab it, paddle.
Just under 21 minutes to go. Our competitors getting back into the lineup. Joel Parkinson, impressive in the first round here. Joel's with Rosie. He's into round 3.
Well, Joel Parkinson, as someone that's motivated by good surf, today is one for the books. It seems like a lot of hard work, but when you get a nugget, it's so worth it.
For sure. I mean, it'd be really nice to have a lot longer than 30 minutes. Just so you could, there was the first 12 minutes I didn't catch a wave. I got stuck in a rip at the start of the heat, and I was like, oh, please don't let this be the heat, and then it just comes around. And it's one of those places where you can't really play defense if you get in the lead, and you're never safe if you are in the lead, a guy from third, second. So you really, I guess it's pretty cliche to say do your own thing and find your own rhythm, but out there it's definitely how it should go. I had 2 waves and that was it. I had one at like 17 mark and one at the 4 minute mark, and that was it.
And having experience out at this location, that must pay off too.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had it big. It's been 5 or 6 years since we've had a really big day. So it's, I've only ever surfed here a handful of times when it's been big. So I guess it's a little bit more than a lot of people.
And what lumbo are you riding at the moment?
I jumped on a 6.2. I rode in Fiji and Tahiti. Felt unreal to just do my stock standard JS Forget-Me-Not. I haven't rode it for a while, and it was my first surf, waxing up in 3 months. It felt nice.
Well, it's looking good, and we look forward to seeing you in round 3. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Rosie. Joel giving us some good insight there. You're never really safe in this lineup because there's not that defined takeoff spot. You think about trestles, it's so predictable. You know where the wave is going to break most of the time, and form counts for a lot at a place like that. But here, really, it's about who's willing to put themselves under the ledge, and every single guy on the championship tour has a different story. They're all fighting for different reasons. So, that form, those turns, they don't count for anything, really, once the surf gets like this.
And also, he touched on in the interview exactly what we were talking about. 30 minutes, it's not enough time. They just want more to actually get in a rhythm out there, to get on that pace with the ocean. It's really, really hard to do. And for him, like he said, he got 2 waves out there, and he was stoked to catch 2 waves and, come through that heat. It's one of those things where your waves are that size, most of the time you're sitting out there for a solid hour before you're on your, within that hour, you're on your really good wave.
Well, I'm sure that Juan Daru and Nat Young would have liked more time in that heat. I think Joel will be happy with the 30-minute time slot now, but he's through to the 3rd round, so he's styling out there at the moment. 18 minutes to go. Chloe Andino out in front. Pretty impressive set wave that he had. Only a 4.83, but know, it was a good read on that wave considering where he took off. There was maybe some scoring opportunity a little deeper, but the wave just let him in where it did, and he maxed the points on offer.
Yeah, I think he was ready. I think he was ready for that wave to do a little bit different, do something different as he took off. It looked like I think he thought he was just going to throw it out, but it didn't do that right away for him. But he still maximized his opportunity with what he thought he was going to get.
So each surfer looking for a couple of scores in the excellent range, obviously, but we've seen some low-scoring heats so far. We've got a panel of 5 judges scoring each ride on a scale of 0 to 10, and the highest and lowest scores from the panel are dropped, and the remaining scores determine the average. But 17 minutes to go here in Kolohe, finding the best ride so far, a 4.83. And you've got to look back at the numbers from some of the previous heats today. There's been heat winners in this first round with pretty low scoring combinations. Jack Freestone, one of the highest, 14.9. Joel Parkinson in that previous heat collected the second biggest heat score total of the day of 13.5. So, you know, anyone could really steal the highlight reel at this stage.
I think we're waiting for that. I think we're waiting for that moment, you know, where we actually like just the jaw gets dropped and you just sit back and have that moment.
It's coming.
On a really hot day with a really cold beverage. You're just very happy.
Well, still some big names to hit the lineup in this first round, and then the plan is to get into round 2, and some interesting matched ups already established to kick that one off. Gabriel Medina, Mason Ho in the first heat of round 2. That's an epic battle. And then Owen Wright and Vasco Ribeiro. So some really tough draws for some of those top seeds that weren't able to claim the victory in the first round.
Ooh, that's going to be interesting. Always fun. Vasco, we'll see if he can find his feet. The man-on-man heat's so much different than the 3-man heats too.
Expecting some magic moments from the event in 2017, but just reflecting on this contest, Strido, what are some of your highlights?
I've seen some big airs out here. I feel like Josh Kerr elevating, throwing up some huge airs and doing it with different grabs. So fun to watch.
Those big stalefish grabs. Italo and Felipe's final was, you know, it wasn't about the barrel.
No, it was
2015.
All above the lip and just a little bit of onshore, and there was ramps everywhere. And, you know, if it wasn't for them, I feel like they almost saved the event because they were surfing so well in those conditions that it just became so fun to watch.
And then this event, obviously, the shifty nature of this contest, you know, it opens the door, it kind of levels the field somewhat, and we've seen breakthrough victories. Kai Otten had his only championship tour win here. It was an emotional victory, able to dedicate the win to his grandfather, but against Nat Young. So, you know, this is a good event for the battlers on tour as well.
Well, yeah, the 2 piglets as well, that's something that this place is known for, and seems to be something that you have to be able to do if you're going to perform well.
Just over 14 minutes to go as Andino goes looking for that backup number. That's not going to be the wave to do it, but he has a 4.83 at this stage of the game, but all the competitors well and truly in reach of the lead at this stage. 14 minutes to go here in Heat 10 of round 1. Welcome back. A beautiful sunny Saturday here at the Rip Curl Pro Portugal. And we have heat 10 in the lineup at the moment. Chloe and Dino out in front. A low-scoring heat at the moment, but some pretty decent rides from the competitors, all three. The judges leaving a lot of room in the scale, though. So some really big barrels unloading on the sandbar here today. And the potential for some perfect rides at any time, really. So we'll see what unfolds with just over 12 minutes to go. Ronnie here with Strider, calling this heat for you. Still a couple more big heats coming your way to finish off this first round. And then we'll look to get into round number 2 with world title contenders getting back out there in the lineup. No waves ridden during that break, 12 minutes to go. And a little bit of movement here on the left-hander for Miguel Pupo. Just a quick in and out, no barrel on offer. He didn't see the potential to lay down something big on that foamy face, Strider, so he's out of there.
Yeah, I think there's also a lot of things going through your mind on these little waves, and you can kind of go to turns and throw down a couple, maybe get yourself a 4 on the board, and then have to deal with the time on the clock and the set on the head, right? It's another X factor for these guys paddling back out and dealing with all that. You know, conditions like these, there's so much to play in.
It's a really good point. You know, a lot of the venues on tour, you can take a chance on a medium-sized wave, let go of a couple of turns, get yourself a bit of a score on the board, but
no consequence, right?
No consequence when you kick off that wave and look out the back. Here, completely different story.
I mean, how long do you think that would take? Could take 10 minutes. You heard Joel, first 12 minutes of his heat, he was underwater.
Stuck in a rip, fighting the elements out here. So you can see our competitors, they're really eyeballing some of these medium-sized waves. They're looking for their opportunity almost to the last second, because there is sometimes a lump of water that can roll through these waves and just wedge up a section and give you an exit. So we've seen Connor O'Leary seeking out those corners.
Well, this heat's been a pretty lackluster one, to tell you the truth. Honestly, I want to see some action.
Bring it on.
I'm so excited. It's just, you know, I'm all turned up after all these sets and everything that's happening and watching from the beach. And, you know, it is one of those things that Joel said that we spoke about earlier, getting in rhythm and finding those waves. Nothing easy about it. The crew putting up a security line down there on the beach just because there's so much water washing up. High tide at 5 o'clock today.
This crowd really squeezed up against the grandstand there as we see a big right unloading with no one on it. Just under 10 minutes to go here. But that tide has really pushed in. Seems to be having a bit of an effect on the conditions at the moment.
Connor looked like he was somewhere near that wave, but just must have been just outside of position with priority. Not getting that one. Might have been too far in, maybe hunting that medium-sized one a little too deep.
Definitely get that shock wave too that comes into play here, Strider. We see it at Pipe, we see it at Chopu. Sometimes when a big wave unloads, it leaves behind a bit of a reverberation on the face of the wave, making that next wave even harder to surf.
Oh yeah, you definitely don't want to be a part of that. I've seen 4-foot waves coming out of the back of the tube of Pipeline and Chopu, and even out here, this thing's exploding. You can literally catch the reverb wave going back out into the ocean. So it's something where another element playing into these heats. And then just seeing that vision just now of those guys paddling back in towards the foamy water. So they were obviously a little out of position, then had to move out to try and catch that wave we saw on screen and missed it. Trying to be in rhythm, knowing when those sets are coming. I have to say it, none of these surfers in rhythm in this heat.
No, it's a pretty close battle at the moment. Just over 8 minutes to go, and no one's actually put it out of reach. Just a 1.17 required for Miguel. Connor O'Leary, he only needs a 1.84, so Andino's got to be careful here. It's not a safe lead at all. I think that's the reason we're seeing them move back onto the inside between the sets, because it might be a scrappy affair. These guys might be fighting it out for another one of those low-scoring heat totals for the win.
Well, they're all, you know, right there, separated by just over a 1.5 or a point there. And it's not a lot. I mean, really, get one of those waves that we saw on screen, you get into the excellent range, you're flying.
So yeah, just a 4.83, the single highest score of this heat so far. 7.5 minutes to go. There is seems to be sort of little changes in the conditions at various stages at the moment. Maybe that incoming tide just wreaking a bit of havoc on this lineup at the moment. Haven't seen some of those big nuggets with those shoulders, those entries that we saw when Michel Perez was out there in the lineup.
Yeah, it's one of those things too where the tides are so massive that the lineup changes so much. I think it was something like 2.5 feet an hour the tide was moving. That's just crazy.
Rapids. But yeah, it's about adaptability. Much like France, you know, we spoke about that a lot. It's about having a couple of different game plans, because if those big set waves don't come your way, you have to have something on the board. Otherwise, you know, even as a form surfer, you could find yourself out of sorts. Chloe Andino, he can sneak away here at the moment and get just something on the board to put a little bit more distance between himself and his rivals. It might work out for him.
Owen and Gabriel into round 2, 3 and 4 in the world. Oof. That would not be a happy loss if those guys go down in round 2. That pretty much right there, you're off right there as far as the title race goes.
Yeah, no slip-ups for those 8 title contenders, especially the ones outside of the top 2. It's going to really hurt their chances. So it'll be fun to watch that play out this afternoon if we can get that second round underway. Just under 6 minutes to go now. And this heat remains anyone's. Connor O'Leary, he's going to be sweet. He's already re-qualified for the championship tour with a really impressive run of results. But he doesn't want to fall off the pace now. He's coming off the back of 2 round 2 losses. So he'll definitely have a victory in mind here with just over 5 minutes remaining now.
The overview here, Super Tubo, so you can see the broken up lines coming in.
Loving that drone vision from DJI and, you know, the old town of Peniche off in the background there.
What a beauty.
It's fun just to walk down those cobblestone streets and check out some of the great restaurants.
The old world meets the new. It's pretty amazing. Down the back alley. Kick your fish.
Sardines for days. Just over 4.5 minutes to go here. Let's see if one of these guys can give us a highlight moment in what's been an otherwise pretty slow heat.
Come on, boys.
You know, one of the things I love when you get a swell like this, Strider, is watching the world's best actually take some big beatings. It's amazing to see how quick they bounce back. You know, usually if you're having a free surf, you take a real heavy beating and surf like this, you can afford yourself a bit of recovery time. You can come in on the beach and do a slow walk around, get back out into the lineup. These guys don't have that luxury. They need to get back out there, you know, even with a head full of water. They got to find those scores. A lot on the line.
You're going to be feeling it. You're going to hit the sauna, the steam room, hopefully slide into a massage, hydrate, get ready for the next day.
That's a good point too. You know, we're looking at some pretty decent back-to-back swells here, and it could be a real flurry just of heats being surfed for these competitors. They're going to have to really count on their strength and conditioning. They're going to have to really be careful not to gas themselves if they're having free surfing sessions in between their heats.
I was just going to say, Seabass has probably surfed for like 6 hours already, just today. But
definitely, there was a few guys out there, wasn't there, during the warm-up session this morning?
Oh yeah, everybody was out, and it was, you know, you got to pace yourself. I think that's definitely key. How you think about it, you go out for a 30-minute quick one.
Well, here we go, live action. Miguel Pupo making a charge at the lead. He'll find the exit. So much on the line for Miguel as he drives into the inside. and gets a finishing turn and hangs on to it. So he only needed a 1.17. So with just over 2.5 minutes to go, the pressure's going to be on Kolohe Andino because that is going to get Miguel into the lead.
Found himself a little mini nug on the inside, didn't he? Thread the needle, nice work on the backhand. He goes to the rights a lot. I feel like he's more comfortable almost going right.
And a real sense of urgency to get to that inside and find a finishing move to push that score up a little bit higher.
Finds it, leans forward, never really slowed down much, huh? Just on the gas to come out of the end there. Does the hop to the next corner. Little tap there for the completion, but right here you can see him just on the front foot, leaning forward just to get through it. Keeps the board movement going and then taps it to finish. Definitely going to get the score for the next couple of minutes here. We'll see if somebody else can get back into the lead. Not a, you know, I mean, we got an 8-point total up there on top. That's not a lot.
So 4.33 for Miguel, and he's making his way in with just a minute and a half. Not enough time to get back out there. So we're now going to put our attention on Conor O'Leary and, of course, Kolohe Andino. Conor just needs a 5-point ride to get in front. Kolohe Andino only chasing a 3.17. So the pressure's on now to find a way that provides that opportunity and to execute.
A 3.17.
Down the beach. I think I could see Kolohe Andino having a look at a ride, and he's up. Trying to stall, trying to get some time behind the curtain here. Has a bit of room on the open face to maybe throw some turns, but that wave is a mess. And he's forced to dive onto his tummy just to get to the inside here.
See him plowing through that foam. That's that foam that was on the surface when Adriano was getting hammered and just took a big breath of it and almost took him down.
So 40 seconds to go. We'll see the start of Kolohe Andino's ride. Did he get barreled?
Drops in, beautiful style, pushing on that rail, but doesn't slow down enough. That is a tough wave. Like, had the score on it, but just couldn't get himself deep enough to get barreled.
So waiting on the numbers to come through for Andino as we see Conor O'Leary with an opportunity now. 15 seconds to go. Nice turn to kick things off. But it looks like that's all he's going to get out of this ride. A little bit of room to move on the inside, but this one fading away. 5 seconds. It's a pretty decent score that he's chasing, actually, a 5. And without the barrel, I doubt he'll get there. But Kolohe Andino picked off a bomb down the beach, but it was such a hard wave to ride.
Well, Miguel Pupo gave me something to watch. That was kind of fun. Kolohe, a little tube time, but I don't know, feeling a little gypped on that heat.
They'll make it up to us in the next round, I'm sure, but it looks as though Miguel Pupo is going to snatch the victory here at 4.33 with 3 minutes to go. Got him that #1 spot, and Kolohe Andino and Conor O'Leary look like they're going to fall short of the required number to snatch it from him. So after 2 round 2 losses,
Next stage, please.
Conor O'Leary is going to jump the second round and move directly to the third.
4, 3.
Sorry, Conor O'Leary will have to fight his way out a second. It's Miguel Pupo taking the win, and he's into round 3. We're going to take a quick break. We'll bring in Joe Tappel and Martin Potter to call the action for the last 2 heats of round 1 right after this.
Respect me like you heard of him. Remember when we used to run around the streets, go hunt around for beats, go in when the lights came on. They call me Kirby King. Respect me like you heard of him. Remember when.
Boa tarde. Good afternoon. Welcome back to the MEO Rip Curl Pro Portugal's top 10 of the World Surf League Championship Tour. Round 1 continues with Seabass taking on Ace Bucket and Ezekiel Lau. First place skips into round 3, and second and third are reseeded in the second round of competition. Sebastian Zeech, fresh off a final appearance at the Quicksilver Pro France, now comes into play as the high seed in this matchup. Ace Bucket, one of the best barrel riders in the world, especially with some late takeoffs on his forehand that have led him to victory in waves like in France and also in Tahiti. Zeke Lau, one of the talented rookies on tour that gave us a perfect 10-point ride in his first event of the season at Snapper Rocks. So a lot of great stories coming into the back part of round 1. Joe Turpel alongside 89 world champ Martin Potter. For the call, things got started with Sebastian Zeitz.
Yeah, Seabass pulling into a quick right-hander, trying to get the ball rolling. Obviously that last hit, very, very slow, tricky conditions here this afternoon, but Sebastian Zeitz showing that he's wasting no time whatsoever. Gets a quick score on the board, just 1.6. Hopefully that doesn't count in his top 2 by the end of this heat. There were some low scores in that last one, Joe. Pretty tough conditions.
Really challenging when you think about a 2-wave total, less than double digits. 8 points is what Miguel Pupo had on his top 2 to take the win over Kolohe Andino and Connor O'Leary. And he'll get that gift for the rest of the day off. Seabass moved up to 11th in the world, making the final. Up in France, runner-up to Gabriel Medina. It was a tough final, too, because Seabass had some brilliant waves on finals day, but it did end up really helping him out in that final heat of the contest.
No, kind of ran out of steam, maybe. You know, obviously one of those days where he had to dig deep. He had a lot of breakthrough performances, obviously up against Kolohe Andino. Came back right towards the end there and stole the victory off Andino, so he really did have to dig deep. So sometimes when you have to fight hard to make it to the final, it's very hard to then come out and, you know, still have that same sort of momentum.
So we saw Ace Bucket also final this season. His final came in Saquarema down in Rio de Janeiro. Runner-up to De Souza. That's his best result of the year. Moves him to number 14 on the Jeep leaderboard, heading into the final 2 stops. Zeke Lau was dangerous at Bells Beach. Had that key 10-point ride against Jordy Smith, but he didn't win that heated snapper. Jordy came back, had 2 solid scores that stole the victory, but just showed what Zeke was capable of when the waves are firing. And you got to see a brilliant performance out of Zeke down in Cascais in the qualifying series 10,000 pots.
Yeah, absolutely. Surfed incredibly well. And, you know, kind of what you need sometimes is just a little bit of confidence booster. I mean, these guys are all pretty amazing surfers and not much really separating the top 32. Zeke 25th at the moment, so just below the cut line, but doing quite well on the QS. So I'm sure he'd like to re-qualify through the CT. Here we go.
Having a look and pulling right in from the island of Kauai, Sebastian Zeitz beats the first section. Did he find a low road to come out? Not this time. You almost want to delay that moment to see if they make it or not after what Jack Freestone did earlier today and turned in that 9-point ride.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like we said, these guys are the best in the world and they can pull some insane things out of nothing. Pulling into a closeout, obviously, pretty much that Jack had, and somehow found an exit, dropping a 9-point ride. Still the highest wave of the day so far. Seabass trying to replicate that. Pulls in and just gets squashed at the end. Joel Parkinson with an 8.93. Perez with an 8.5. It's only 3 waves up into the excellent range, Joe.
And it's all about the angle where this bank is for the panel. They've got their view of the lineup from upstairs. I went up and just watched some replays. It's hard to get a spot inside the judges' tower, but I actually asked politely, got a spot, and I saw the angle that they saw Michelle's wave, and it was insane. Looked like he had just such a great positioning. He was completely gone and got spat out, which is always a good reminder when you're sitting in the water with your friend looking into the barrel. It's hard to tell how deep they are. Yep. Even if you're just angled down the beach, it's a big difference from what you're seeing. Our main focus is setting up the judges' tower at the best part of the bank. and they'll base all their scores from what they can see. So I think it pays off as well for the surfers to kind of go up to the tower, take a look, see what's going to be scoring. Things have changed a lot over the years, so we do get the advantage of the video replay. You get a lot of looks. The main part about Michelle's wave that made it so gnarly was that critical takeoff, the size of the wave. And in comparison to the other waves ridden in that heat, they had to make that nice separation.
Yeah, and I mean, it was by far the best wave of the heat. I mean, his positioning was absolutely fantastic. Didn't probably get as deep as he would have liked to have, but I had a chat to him not that long ago, and he touched on how tough it was out there. Difficult, a lot of water moving, tricky conditions, and you really got to throw yourself over that ledge. Sometimes not even knowing whether you're going to make the drop or not.
That's right. Well, we showed up this morning, Potts, here for opening day with all that hype and the swell that we're obviously watching now. And it wasn't here yet.
No.
It looked about waist high. Made a couple of delays in the call, but we did see the energy start to fill in. And then Zeitz, like he loves to do in free surf, Sandon Heath stole the show once again. He packed 2 back-to-back barrels. Next thing you know, the contest was called on for a 10:05 start, and Zeitz definitely got the wave in the morning.
No, absolutely right. You know, good to kind of feel it out as well, you know, get that first couple of waves under your belt so you're not paddling out there wondering what to expect. It's always good to get a couple of waves and iron out those creases. Make sure you're on the right board. Get your confidence up, and then literally go out in your heat and try and replicate that free surfing feeling.
That's right. Well, the big stories for requalification. Miguel Pupo had a solid result in France. Came down to a close decision in the last heat as we watch Sebastian Zeitz paddle hard to get into this opportunity. Packs the first section. Zeitz gets the exit. Grab rail, down carve. One of his favorite maneuvers, especially after getting spat out of the pit. Zeitz loves conditions like this. He couldn't wait to come down to see what the surf was going to be looking like today. I saw him last night, and he was just going, oh, I hope this swell shows up. He didn't want it to be small and rippable. He wanted to be packing big barrels like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Just sliding in, no bottom turn right there. Perfect positioning. You can see how he corrected his line. He pulled right up and nice and tight. Beautiful wrapping cutback. So, I mean, Sebastian Zeitz, if you've ever watched him surf backdoor pipeline, I mean, he's a definite standout when you're looking at backdoor and off the wall. So waves today, kind of very similar to backdoor in a way, where it's all about the barrel. So Seabass looking really comfortable on those opening 2 waves.
Especially with how challenging the conditions have been. Look at what we have here. Zeitz once again up and down on a big closeout section. We know he loves to stay active. He likes to catch a lot of waves. And that's not just the case in small, rippable conditions. If it's big and pumping, he's just going to keep on swinging. And Potts, remember, before he had a huge global name, we'd see him on the North Shore sitting down at that place called Off the Wall and taking off on the ones that nobody wanted. He was still like 16 back then.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, you know, that's sort of boded well for his career, hasn't it? I mean, it's, you know, heavy waves on tour. So you really got to have that go for it attitude. Seabass has just caught a bunch of waves already. Pulling up deep behind the curtain on that occasion, not coming out. So Sebastian Zeitz making it quite clear that he's going to catch a lot of waves and try and put some good scores on the board.
So Zeitz out of the lineup now, 8.10 combined total. Ace Buchan, Zeke Lau still scoreless at the moment, 19 on the clock. Zeitz from Kauai, Zeke Lau from the island of Oahu. Ace Buchan representing Avoca Beach over there in Australia. And the score's in for Zeitz, a 6.5 for getting the exit there on that last exchange.
Yeah, exactly. So he's got a good score under his belt. Now he's just got to back it up. So he's going to do a little quick run around. The further to the right-hand side of your screen you go, the easier it is to get out. It's really weird how the swell just focuses right on this one spot here at this beach. Maybe there's like a little bend. There's probably a big channel out the back, a big canyon, so to speak, and it just funnels the waves right into it. Creates this beautiful wave called Super Tubos. Packs a lot of punch, Joe.
It sure does. There's a lot of little refraction elements that make this wave. Well, even with the wind on this peninsula, everywhere else is straight north wind. You get that angle out here, it kind of bends off the peninsula, it kind of goes more northeast, so you get that kind of side offshore flow. Looks like we'll have consistent wind conditions for the next couple of days. with plenty of swell still hanging around. Kind of looking like the peak of the swell this afternoon, which might set up maybe a little bit friendlier day tomorrow, Potts, because today's been pretty challenging for the world's best.
You know what, though? I like it. I like seeing the world's best get challenged. I mean, you know, and I was listening to Ronnie and Strider talk about how quick these guys recover from a big wipeout or a beating, whereas mere mortals would be washed up on the beach and, you know, your day's done, crawl home, you know, with your tail between your legs. But these guys have got to get up, dust themselves off, and go straight back out and throw themselves over the ledge again. I mean, you've got 30 minutes to catch 2 good waves. There's no time to muck around. There's no time to lick your wounds. You do that once it's all done and dusted, but it's amazing the strength and the athletic ability that these guys have.
It's amazing thinking about that concept with, you know, the normal surfer. If you saw them walking away from this, you'd be like, yeah, great idea. Come back another day. The best surfers in the world, they're like, okay, how am I going to get the most out of these slabbing conditions today? We mentioned the 9-point ride from Jack Freestone. That's the high mark. But also some of the waves that aren't made have been the most memorable. Josh Kerr, a slab specialist, pulled into a crazy closeout. We use the word slab a lot in pro surfing. You can kind of compare that to the box, that venue at Margaret River that comes out of deep water and in such a crazy transition to shallow, it just folds over itself to create a box-looking shape of the barrel. You got Chopa, which is a natural slab. It comes out of deep water and goes over a shallow reef for that abrupt change that could give guys like this the wave of their life. Buchan's one there. Zeetz always is a threat with high-scoring rides. Zeke Lau loves to take off deep and pack the pit as well. So it's kind of a specialty kind of skill to have, to be able to put yourself right in the impact zone, sometimes even no paddle takeoffs to get the vision of your life.
Well, it's essentially putting yourself in harm's way. I mean, you know, these swells march across the ocean and hit these super shallow banks or reefs or whatever you want to call it, and literally just lurch up, and you kind of sit there, wait for it, knowing that I could either get the ride of my life or the beating of my life, and just having the guts to sit there and wait. You know, most people will run for the horizon or split and run away from it. These guys just sit right there and just take it on. So it's unbelievable to watch.
This lineup, if you show up when the contest isn't here, a lot of the locals were bodyboarders, and I think a lot of those slabbing waves started off with bodyboarders, like even the box in West Oz in the early days when people were trying to see, okay, how do you enter a wave like this on a surfboard? Obviously, that was a long time ago now, but you still see the bodyboarders charging out here. That's a big part of the local contingent, as the story is kind of relatively new on the surfing scene at Super Tubos. Back in the old days, in your era, Potts, things were kind of focused on Ericeira as being the hub of surfing, because there's, well, still world-class waves in that region.
Oh, yeah.
But this one kind of was all part of that really cool Rip Curl search story.
Yeah, absolutely. And then after Ericeira, you're looking at Figueira de Foz, a big long jetty where the wave would bounce off and you get these crazy wedges. But yeah, this is definitely, to me, I think, one of the better spots. Why? Because you're on this peninsula. You've got so many beach breaks around the corner. Here we go, Ace up and running.
Ace now, checking out his first wave of the heat. It's just going to be an up and out. He'll still be chasing Sebastian. That'll give priority to Zeke Lau as this one continues.
We saw Seabass ditching his board, getting caught inside. It's what these guys do sometimes to get through the wave. Pushing under could be quite dangerous sometimes. That wave could really land on your head and sort of really smash you into your board. So many times I've headbutted my board pushing under a wave like that. Bang, 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 and board just hits you in the face. So a lot of guys would opt just to ditch the board and dive under it.
I think most of those injuries happen not even in the act of riding the wave. It's trying to get another one or get back out. Your fins are so sharp. It's such a tight impact zone. 13:55 on the clock in round one, heat number 11. Zeetz got on a bit of a roll to start things off after coming off a huge final appearance at the Quicksilver Pro France. He now comes here as the man to beat in heat number 11. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back in Peniche, Portugal for more action right after this. Welcome back to the MEO Rip Curl Pro Portugal as we check out a classic slow motion replay courtesy of Worm, the app that's breaking down these slow-mo replays here for all of Action Sports. And joining us in surfing on this amazing combination that Josh Kerr threw down earlier today to get a classic round 1 victory. A slab specialist, loves pulling in deep and throwing down a big major turn. And our favorite thing is to slow it down, courtesy of Worm. Thank you for the technology and the support here at the MEO Rip Curl Pro. Kersey off and running as we catch up to Ace Buchan coming back into action live. He had a sleepy start, just trying to wait for a couple of gems out there. Started off slow, so now trying to pick up the pace with 11:30 on the clock, Potts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to get the ball rolling. 30 minutes flies by. That's that old saying, time flies when you're having fun. Some of these guys are not having fun, but some of them are. Ace Buchan, that felt good right there. That nice big backside hook under the lip. Just trying to get some sort of momentum happening. Seabass has got the golden ticket at the moment. And you know what it is, Joe? It's that just keep him busy, man. It's one of those kind of days where you're not going to win the heat by sitting around waiting. Just catch a couple of waves, get yourself into some sort of groove, and luck into a couple of good ones, which Seabass did. That 6.5 was a wave on the way back out. And it's, at this stage, the best wave of the heat.
That's right. Seabass 6'5", 267 is the high mark for Ace, and Zeke still being patient at the moment, trying to come back in the matchup. We have a massive crowd on hand for the opening day of competition, and I'm having a really challenging time finding Strider Wazalewski. He out of the booth, into the crowd. Strider, you out there?
Where's the Waz?
There he is, Waz. He's out here. He's chilling. He's got himself a little piece of sand down here on the beach. A huge crowd down here on hand. Actually, they're pretty much loving the situation. I think everybody's enjoying themselves, but they've all been pushed back up by the high tide, so might as well find yourself a little piece of sand that's not going to get wet. But actually, I think the water's going to come up here within a few hours because the waves are still pumping and the tide's still coming up.
Loving where you're at, Strider. I love that purple microphone. Everything you're doing right now is amazing. How are the fans around you?
I think they're loving it. They're just enjoying the show. Everybody's watching pretty intently on the water right now, though, because anything could happen, and we're still waiting for those 10-point rides to go down. I think they're out there.
Strider, is there any clear favorites as far as the crowd goes?
Clear favorites. I think Medina would be one coming up here for sure. It's going to be fun to watch these last couple of heats. And you know what? Every time somebody gets a great wave, no matter who it is, they go nuts.
And also coming up next, we have Frederico Moraes, Strider. As far as crowd factor is concerned, how much noise are we going to hear in that one?
I can't wait. It's going to be through the roof. I think it's going to hit the red decibel, and well, rightfully so. He's a local favorite, and let's see if he can perform under pressure with all these people down here watching him.
How much do the seats cost down there, Waz?
This one cost me quite a bit, actually, but it's okay. I'm gonna get a refund.
We'll get you a new wristband, my friend.
I got a wristband for the VIP down here.
Okay. Strider Wazalewski loving the action, joining the fans here in Peniche, and a brilliant crowd, people standing up in the sand dunes as well because of this high tide that's been taking a lot of people's towels, a lot of their personal belongings. Their cameras have been taken away early, so everyone's trying to make sure that they're staying on dry land to watch the world's best compete today.
Yeah, absolutely. Hang on to your kids, because when those big sets come through, they wash right up through there. Good security, though. They've been keeping a close eye on everything, lifeguards and everything, and got the jet skis out in the water just in case. Big sets starting to come through right now. As you can see, guys starting to reposition themselves in the lineup. Ezekiel Lau still waiting to open his account, Joe. He's got to catch something here very soon.
And the Hawaiian with priority, a big takeoff for Zeke. That thing's going to shut down, so Zeke gets a little bit of space to step off before he wears that whitewater on the head. The crowd going absolutely crazy, seeing the set from Zeke, and also seeing Frederico Moraes preparing for the next heat. Well, what a bomb drop that was for Lau. He considered locking that thing under the hood, but there was absolutely no way anyone could have made that one, Potts.
No, exactly right. You don't want to break your board straight off the bat. Let's have a look. Good, solid wave. Zeke Lau's a big kid, and that thing is 3 or 4 times overhead. Look at the power behind him as he emerges out of that avalanche of whitewater. You know, that's the thing. I mean, this wave will chase you down. It'll beat you up. Look at this drop on for Ezekiel Lau. Beautiful slow-mo. And he straightens out there, good thing he didn't pull into that, Joe, because he could quite easily have broken his board. This wave will beat you up, send you straight to the bottom, hold you under for a period of time and take all your energy away from you. So good move there from Zeke.
Surfing anywhere around the world, Potts, people are always like, well, how big is it today? How big is it today? And sometimes it's hard to tell depending on who you ask and where they're from, you know, if they judge the backs of the wave or the face of the wave. If you had to make a call on how big these waves are, Potts, what would you say?
Oh, it's in that 6 to 8 foot range with the odd bigger one coming through, and that's, you know, proper Hawaiian style 6 to 8. I mean, Zeke Laos, he's what, 6'1", 6'2", and that wave was 3 or 4 times over his head. So
it's got to be one of the biggest waves he's caught this season on tour.
For sure.
In the Jersey. That's for sure. So that's kind of the Hawaiian scale, 6 to 8 feet. On the face, you
in Hawaii, it's 4 foot right now.
Oh, there we go, yeah.
It's always 4 foot in Hawaii.
It's always 4 feet.
Don't ask Michael Ho what size the waves are, because it's always 4 foot.
No matter what. You got to love that scale. It always keeps you guessing. They always keep it modest on the number size. Also judging the backs. When you talk about the face of the wave, how big are you going, Potts?
The face of the wave? Oh, I don't know, 15 feet on the face? 15 foot on the face? Well, if Zeke is 6'1", let's say, as he drops into this, wait till he gets to the bottom of the wave, and all right, now he's starting to stand up tall. So you're looking at 1, 2, 3, like 4, at least 4 times overhead. That's a big wave, and look how thick the lip is as well. So you're looking at about a ton of pressure per square foot. That thing lands on your head, you'll know about it, that's for sure.
It was so crucial that Zeke had so much speed from the takeoff. He had some room with this crazy impact.
Look at the explosion. I mean, that is 20 foot high up into the air. That is a lot of power unleashing onto that sandbank, and Zeke Loud disappears. It's like a snowboarder trying to outrun an avalanche. Except our avalanches, you got to hold your breath too.
Potts, that's a really big 4 foot wave.
That's a really big, no doubt, Joe, no doubt.
Oh,
that is
easy
a powerful
triple
4 foot
overhead
wave.
on the takeoff for Zeke Lau, face-wise. A lot of power, probably one of the biggest drops he's had of the season.
I would have claimed that.
Big time. He had to look at that thing. Hitting the 5-minute warning into the pit with Ace bucking down the beach. Big down carve to seal it. So Ace has been waiting for his comeback roll. Caught his first wave at the 15-minute mark. And he might be doing a great job to chase down Sebastian now.
Yeah, well, that's all he needs, right? Just a 5.44. Let's have a look at that again in a sec. As Ace Buchan slides into sort of a smaller wave, not quite as big as Zeke Laus, but look at that beautiful positioning from Ace Buchan, and then just hooking into that nice carving maneuver. So great positioning there from Ace. Good wave selection, good to get the ball rolling, get himself on the board. And a 5.44 required, so smart surfing there from Ace Buchan. And that's what he does, Joe, doesn't he? He just plucks away, just keeps dropping scores, applies the pressure on his opponents, and then sneaks up and kicks your butt.
Such a smooth competitor, one of the smartest guys on tour, tactically sharp, and always spent a lot of time as a surfers rep on tour to make things better for the whole top 34 picture, to make sure they're in the best waves. He was a big part of the movement last season when he found the sandbar last year in Portugal that got the whole event to move to a dreamy bank. That was a big part of the world title race. So Buchan loving his position now, 14th in the world, as we catch up to Zeke Lau in a much friendlier position than the wave he took before, pulling into a closeout there. He did get rewarded for the drop, Potts, a 2.77 on that massive one. Now needing a 5.34 for the lead. Ace Buchan's best, a 5.23, keeps him in second under Zeitz with 3:20 to go.
So it was pretty close, wasn't it? Needed a 5.54, I think it was. So coming in just under the requirement. 2.88 required, so not much. Sebastian Zeitz has gone a little quiet. It's not like him. He's back up at the moment at 1.6, so that's the weak link. He needs to try and improve on that. He's sitting at the back now with priority. You can see that red P next to his name means he has unconditional right away. His opponents have to give way and let him go on any wave he wants. If he makes a concerted effort and paddles for a wave and misses it, Joe, the priority will then swing to Ace Buchan, who's got the number 2 on his square, and so on and so forth.
It's a really cool system, and in round 1, we didn't have the priority system a few years ago, so it's still relatively new. Kanoa Igarashi qualifying at the right time taking advantage of this system where take away most of the hassling. Igarashi right in the corner there with Jake the Snake Patterson. Kano's got his whole family with him here. Mom, dad, his younger brother, Keanu, has been shadowing him on tour, so we're already anticipating his championship tour debut very soon. And Zeitz wants to get rid of that 1-6. Pato is interesting with his run to the final in France. He hadn't made the final series, quarters or better, since last year at this contest. He seems to be a guy that doesn't mind a bit of momentum where he can get on a hot streak and stay hot for a long time. So already you can tell that energy's still fired up from that big final appearance. His free surf was spot on this morning and still has the lead so far with that high 6.5, 90 seconds to go.
Yeah, well, it's, he's done all the hard work, got that ball rolling quickly, and I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of going out and just catching a lot of waves, especially in these kind of conditions. You know, we've seen a lot of heats where guys have been starved of waves, have just been out of position and ending their heats with really low scores. So get the ball rolling, catch a couple of waves, and Sebastian did that, and a 6.5 followed. So that was so far the best wave of the heat. Still, he's back up just to 1.6. So some nervous moments right now. You can see Seabass keeping a very close eye on Ace Buchan. Don't forget about Zeke, though. I mean, one good wave can change everything here.
Zeke Lau, third priority, but all the focus is on Ace with second priority. So Seabass is going to shadow him for 50 more seconds on the clock. And that could end up taking Ace out of this heat. But things can happen very quickly here at Super Tubos.
Yep, and not much needed.
And it looks like Seabass is already going to have to make a decision here with priority. Taking this left off Ace, he pulls into the barrel, trying to find the exit through this inside run, and Seabass will stay standing through the inside corner. And that'll open the door for 20 seconds for Ace Buchan.
I'll tell you what, a smart move right there from Sebastian Zeitz. He's starting to play the game. Tommy Witz is finally getting through.
Love seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, that was smart stuff. We don't normally see Sebastian do that whole defense thing and shadow the guy that's the most dangerous at this point was Ace. And Seabass betters his situation and takes the heat win. Wow, what a heat there from Sebastian Zeitz.
Zeitz with a 3.27 on that last wave to hold off Ace Buchan. So Ace staying in second, Zeke Lau in third with one of the biggest drops of the day. Maybe even the season with that wave about triple overhead on the face. That was a big 2.77. With more action to come here in round one. Remember, three-time world champ, two-time event winner, Mick Fanning takes on the local boy, Federico Moraes, and Ian Gouveia coming up next.
Third place, White, Ziglau with 3.97. Bem, os resultados então, vermelho, Sebastian Zeitz levar a vitória na bateria anterior, Ace Buchan de azul em segundo e o Ziglau branco na terceira posição. Bem, vamos lá ver então, na água temos Frederico Moraes, temos o nosso Frederico Moraes, ele está com a licra azul, ele tem o número 25, já tem aqui também já alguns resultados para assinar, ficou em segundo lugar em Jeffreys Bay e tem também 2 quintos lugares já conseguidos esta temporada, o primeiro deles em Bells Beach e depois também na etapa californiana. Bem, o Frederico Moraes é então neste momento o 13º classificado no ranking mundial. Para já está a ser o melhor rookie da temporada. Temos Mick Fanning de vermelho, tricampeão mundial, está em 12º ranking, para já tem 4 quintos lugares, então esta temporada não conseguiu avançar mais do que nos quartos de final. Ficou então nessa fase aberta do Rio de Janeiro, Jeffreys Bay também, em 11º. Bem, o último representante do Brasil, Ian Gouveia, eu já referi isto há pouco.
Welcome back and good afternoon. You're watching the MEO Rip Curl Pro Portugal's top 10 of the World Surf League Championship Tour. We're into round 1, heat 12. 3-time world champ Mick Fanning, the headliner for good reason. He's earned it. He's one of the best of all time. He's had a lot of wins on his championship tour career, 22 to be exact, to be on that front page of the all-time win list. He's won this event a couple of times, including that opening event when it was the Rip Curl Pro Search. You had to guess back then, Potts, where the tour was stopping, and there wasn't too many hints back then. Back then, the broadcast would keep it under wraps, and everyone would start chiming in and guessing, and pretty soon we realized where the special place was. Portugal getting behind it every single year. There's so many great people to thank that host us so well in this part of the world, and it was cool to see it transition from that kind of one-off wildcard event to a consistent venue that we get to enjoy every year.
Yeah, the Mayor of Peniche really stepped up and, you know, owned this event, really brought it here, and just the crowd as well. I mean, the support from all the people, and, you know, it's amazing. I mean, summer's ended, it's going into the winter season, but it's still beautiful and warm. It's about 25 degrees today with that sunshine. There's Ace coming in from his heat. You will see him in round 2. But yeah, it's a beautiful part of the world. I love that search feeling as well, where are we going to go next, you know? And Neil Ridgway's got a great poker face because he doesn't let the cat out the bag.
That's right, Ridgway from the Rip Curl crew. One of the top executives there is on hand watching this event. He has some of his favorite restaurants right around the corner that he likes to hang out at. One called the Cafe Jovem, where he was just so bummed that it changed names this year. It's a small little venue that most people might overlook, but he's one of those classic lifelong surfers that just enjoys getting a part of the local culture.
That's what it's about, though.
Sometimes it's not always about the headline tourist spot, is it?
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, you come to places like this to experience the little hole-in-the-wall joints, sit around with a few of the locals and listen to the stories, and you don't want to go to the 5-star restaurants. You can do that anywhere, but there's those little classic hole-in-the-wall spots, and sit down with a few of the locals and just exchange stories. It's good.
A lot of great storytellers around these parts, and a lot of them, when we run into them, it's all about the surf stories from that search event that Mick Fanning won. Then Kelly won the following season in 2010. For Kelly, that was his 10th world title year. Kelly finaled here the next season at Sousa in his 11th world title year. Here comes Mick. Just a quick up and out. Mick's more recent win came back in 2014. Kion won the year before, and his maiden victory on the championship tour. We missed Kai a lot on tour for how entertaining he was at every single venue on tour. Such a fighter, and was able to give such a beautiful podium speech dedicating his big win here in Portugal to his late grandfather. More recent, it's been the John Florence era, clinching his world title. Toledo had that crazy final with Italo Ferreira. Do you have a favorite final, Potts? Yeah, going back in the recent history of this event.
I like the Julian Wilson-Gabriel Medina final. You know, just because of the sheer drama of the whole thing. I mean, the decision was made on the beach, you know, and Julian fell down on the sand, and he got up on the podium. He still had sand all over his face. It was a real passionate victory there for Julian Wilson. I love that kind of stuff.
That was one of the closest decisions we've had. And I think everyone on the beach, you know, was thinking Medina might have won that. Gabriel from Brazil speaks Portuguese quite well. He's a fan favorite coming to this part of the world. And the decision with Julian's last wave went to Wilson at the end of that exchange. And we saw a cool rivalry start to rise on the championship tour. Julian having those fond memories from that breakthrough maiden victory back in 2012. Especially over Medina, because Julian's first final was as a rookie in France, and he felt like he had to wait a long time for some payback.
Absolutely right, and then he got payback, didn't he? Again at the Pipe Masters. That was a great final as well. Just absolute shootout at backdoor and pipe. That's when I went, Medina's a beast, because his best score was at backdoor, and it's a tricky wave on your backhand. He got absolutely barreled off his head that day. It was a great final to watch.
Medina even came in and did a post-seat interview for the world title race, and then still had half a heat to surf, and he really politely excused himself, and then won that heat over Toledo.
Felipe went to sleep in that heat, I think.
I think he didn't know what was happening. He saw Medina doing post-seat interviews, and he was like, am I still on?
Still on.
The clock was still running. Having a look now, the local legend, Frederico Moraes' big takeoff. doesn't get the barrel, so he's got to get out of there. But Frederico with a massive name here in Portugal during the qualifying series 10,000 down at his hometown in Cascais. There was just banners with his face on it all over the city. They're so proud of what he's done to represent Portugal in the top 34 since we lost Tiago Pérez. Tiago, though, of course, he's here on the sidelines. It's been fun catching up with Tiago. He represented Portugal on tour for so many years and had some great memories from the semi-final era at the Gold Coast, and he also had a great performance in Indonesia when the search went there, got past Kelly. Made a semi-final berth there, and then Frederico got the first championship tour final appearance for a surfer from Portugal, more recently at Jeffreys Bay.
Yeah, absolutely. Unbelievable stuff from Frederico, leading the Rookie of the Year race, which himself, Conor O'Leary, Joan Daru, very close battle. Still anyone's game, really. So this is a very important heat in the scheme of things for Frederico.
Especially just competing at home, where the whole story with Tiago was surfing with the nerves and the pressure of the hometown crowd just wanting him to win the contest. Marias, when he was a wild card, he felt a little bit more free. He kind of got to see the roads that Tiago had to pave for himself and guys like Vasco Ribeiro. And that same year, Frederico that not only made a heat, but he went all the way to a quarterfinal finish to change the world title race. Frederico drops into a section to pull in on. Just a quick little cover up, and now he's down the line. Big hack on the forehand, and he'll get out. So a guy that can adapt to pretty wild conditions always knows where to put up that big power move, Potts.
Yeah, well, it served him well. We had him on the show the other morning, and he was talking about how he surfs without any nerves. That's why he's so confident going into stuff like this. Tucks under, nice little cover up right there, squeaks out the front, and then unleashes the beast. Boom, big snap there from Marias. Geez, we've seen a lot of that, and it's given him a lot of success so far this year. Good move here, catching a wave on the way back out, just making sure he gets a quick wave under his belt. The crowd love it. Bang, right there, that big trademark turn from Frederico. Let's have a look again. So just stomps on the tail, throws spray up into the sky, free falls out of the lip. So Frederico Marias keeping the ball rolling. A couple of quick waves under his belt, finds himself in the lead after this wave drops in.
So Marias doing a great job to represent Portugal. Loves the hometown crowd. Last score for Freddie of 4.17. We'll see him take the lead off Gouveia. Ian just had the 1.67. Gouveia also part of the rookie class, the son of Fabio Gouveia. His dad's here on hand, capturing all the images, making little highlight video parts of Gouveia's rookie season on tour. But we're thinking about Ian with this event remaining and also the Hawaiian leg of the tour. Thinking about qualification is always a pretty crazy story for these guys. He's 25th on the rankings. Got to be in the top 22 to requalify. So we'll see how Gouveia's run goes. He had a couple of standout performances, getting an equal 9th this year as a rookie. That's the round before the quarters. But it's all those 25ths and 13ths that really sting at the end of the season.
Yeah, those things are deadly.
Frederico Marias, 5.04 total at the moment, sitting in a great spot on the leaderboard, 13th in the world. Conor O'Leary was kind of the man to focus on in the Rookie of the Year race. But then after he got knocked out pretty early in France and also at lower trestles, there was some breathing room there for Frederico Marias. And now he's taken the lead officially, heading into stop 10. Speaking of Frederico Marias and the whole Portugal contingent, we've got to catch up with the legend himself. Tiago Pérez is with Rosie Hodge.
Thanks so much, Joe. Well, former tour competitor Tiago, we're back here in Portugal, and it's so great to be here. With the waves that we have on offer, what do you think of the conditions at the moment?
Pretty challenging. Probably the biggest super tubes I've seen in a few years. I wouldn't like to go out for a heat now if I'm surfing for a world title or something, but you know, there's some rough diamonds on the rough there to be catched. I don't know. I wouldn't like to be in their skin right now and choose, but because there's some amazing waves, but not many. So it's kind of those tricky calls. But definitely the show and this and the people, the crowd are enjoying a lot.
And, you know, we have Frederico in the water at the moment. Obviously, you have to be proud of him, watching him come up from Portugal and doing the country so proud.
Yeah, he's an amazing kid. You know, he grew up with me a lot and used to surf a lot together. And he became a really interesting head. He got really strong on his head game, and nowadays he's known as a giant killer. And he's on the race for the rookie of the year, and it's making everybody really proud in Portugal. So stoked for him.
And another guy, Vasco Ribeiro, coming in as a wild card in this event, another dangerous surfer from Portugal.
Yeah, for sure. Vasco and Kikos are good friends. They surf a lot together, and they always competed against each other a lot. And now Vasco is even more hungry to get to the tour. Oh my God, Mick Fanning. I wish, well, I don't know. It's still really good out there. So, but I mean, Portugal is really on a good moment, you know, surfing-wise, and there's a lot of young kids coming after Vasco. So I'm really happy to see the future generations coming up, and surfing is such a great sport in Portugal. You know, I'm really proud.
Always a pleasure catching up with you, Thiago. Well, guys, let's get another recap of mixed wave. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Rosie Hodge. So great to catch up with Thiago Pettis, one of the coolest guys to talk to behind the scenes, even when he was battling on the top 34. And the big reason why we're probably not seeing Thiago on tour these days was that reoccurring knee injury that was so tough to recover from. This is what got Thiago really excited, Potts.
Yeah, well, why wouldn't you? Mick Fanning just sneaking under the lip on a bomb. And talk about bomb, that score matches. Mick Fanning just slides into that one beautifully, takes off super late. He's so good at this kind of stuff though, Joe. No bottom turn, just angles the board, knifes it straight into the barrel, and then comes out standing tall. Wow, that felt good. I mean, these are the kind of waves that, you know, you heard Thiago talk about, the diamonds in the rough. Well, there's a diamond, an absolute cracker of a diamond.
A 9-point ride for Mick Fanning, 3-time world champ, 2-time event winner here in Peniche, Portugal. And he's won in some challenging conditions in the past. That search here, the first one where he would have had the heat with Owen in the semifinals. He had the bye because Owen blew out his eardrum. There were some crazy early round matchups, some wild conditions, and Mick took the podium and went on to win another impressive world title. Now 3 total world titles, and as we know, when it's come down to pipeline for the world title decision, he's come very close to a 4th world title, not just once, a few times in his career.
Yeah, well, you know, Mick could quite easily have 5 or 6 titles under his belt, that's for sure. But he's not done yet. I mean, he's still surfing incredibly well. We saw him light it up in France last week, and he's here again surfing incredibly well. He's got a 9-point ride in his scoreline already. 14.5 remaining. Frederico Moraes down into 2nd spot now. And Ian Gavea desperately needing a result. Here goes Mick again.
Feeling the rhythm. Fanning locks in. He's deep on that section for just a quick cover-up. Now looking for maneuvers. There's that wind-up, drawn-out carve for Mick. Just had the 9 under priority. You've got the Australian crew loving it. Also Jaddy, one of Mick's best friends on tour. Everyone with so much respect for the legend from Australia, from the Gold Coast. Locking in that beautiful vision on that 9. Remember, we had the 9 from Jack Freestone. Much different way to get that score. Mick had that bigger section, made it look so easy, Potts.
Yeah, so easy. I mean, that's what he does, though. You know, that's why he's a 3-time world champion. That's why he's one of the greatest of all time. Just an all-round nice guy as well. I mean, one of the most likable guys on tour. Looks after the younger generation whilst going for another good result here this year. Comes out of that one. Look at the style. Look at the style that Mick's got right there, just hooking into that one. So Mick Fanning backing up that 9. Slides into the barrel. Doesn't quite get as deep as he would have liked and had to come out of the front of the wave. But then hooking turn there just to finish off. So not a bad little score, just about to be locked in for Mick. He's going to join up that 9-point ride, and here we go. This is where all the hard yards, that's where all the hard work has to have been put in, Joe, because this stuff doesn't come easy, let me tell you.
Mick Fanning so fired up. to compete throughout the European leg. We saw in a lot of his finishing moves in France that he wanted that win so badly. It's rare for Mick Fanning to finish a season without at least one CT victory, if not multiple wins. He's been one of the more reliable world champs in the last decade, where he always turns in big results. So now you're expecting Mick to make that shift into the top 10 before the season's closed out. Mick even went for a big air reverse in the heat against John Florence, inspired by the youthful generation. Scores in for Fanning, the barrel to turn combo 6.5. Now Federico and Ian Gouveia, the rookies on tour, need 2 new waves for the win.
Wow. Well, that quick, right? 2 waves back to back. 9 and a 6.5. Mick Fanning has the other 2 surfers in a combo situation. Looking for 2 waves, 2 new waves. They've got to clean the slate. 15.50 is what they both need. And while we're doing that replay, Federico Moraes pulls into a chunky wave. Almost comes out the end of it.
And now back to live action, back in the pit, super deep. It looked like Ian Gouveia potentially trying to run after that exit, so the goofy foot just hucking himself over the ledge, getting involved in the excitement of this matchup. He's obviously has the game plan of going for 10s out of this challenging lineup today.
Well, he's got to. He's in a combo situation, 11 minutes to go. Now, generally, it is quite a quick paddle back out, but if you get caught by those sets, we've seen it can take quite a bit of time off the clock. Ian Gouveia, free fall drop, bottom turns, pulls in nice and deep, driving through that section, and unfortunately that wave just straightens out and runs away. So back to the drawing board for Ian Gouveia, 2.83 on that occasion. Still looking for a combination of 2 rides, 15.50 from both Federico and Ian Gouveia.
So an exciting heat, obviously non-elimination with 3 guys out. Round 4 is another 3-man heat where nobody loses, but the opportunity is to skip round 2, go straight into round 3 and avoid the sudden death rounds, which our commissioner's office are talking about getting straight into after this heat. Gabriel Medina with a matchup with Mason Ho is definitely happening in 10 minutes from now. We saw them even talking about jet ski assist with 2 guys out. Remember, Medina, number 3 in the world, putting himself in a position for the world title race, is going to deal with a teammate for himself on Rip Curl, and maybe the wildest of wild cards in Mason Ho.
But I don't know, it was probably a low time in my life, maybe. Maybe the highest one.
Yeah. I love this heat coming up. I can't wait to watch it. Mason Ho is such an X factor. He loves waves like this. It's kind of similar to off the wall. That zone, which Mason Ho kind of owns. He loves tricky waves. He'll surf into rocks, over rocks, jump over rocks. Like he rides waves that really aren't waves. So he's going to be having fun.
Surfboard here. It's a beautiful board, but I'll be using Parco's board. So sponsors, don't get mad at me. We got Reef. Sponsors don't get mad.
One of the
He's already
funniest
having
guys
fun
on tour. And what a difference in the prep work. Mason was just joking around with the camera crew. He's joking around with Seabass.
Yep.
Then you saw Medina on the other end, knowing that he has a world title on the line. Extremely focused with his stepdad, Charlie, knowing that this is a very important heat. He's in a must-win situation, especially with John Florence and Jordy Smith already into round 3.
Yeah, well, he's got to keep up with that, right? So you cannot drop your guard against someone like Mason Ho. Mason is deadly. He's done some damage here in the past. Win, lose or draw, I want Rosie to go and interview him after his heat.
Oh,
Even if he's lost, I want Rosie in there talking to Mason Ho, because he is one of the characters on tour.
Well, I think he gives us our favorite highlight reels in his signature free surf parts, and every time he talks about what he loves the most and being in the water against the world's best. We got a solid performance from a surfer from Kauai, fresh off the final from France. Sebastian Zietz is now with Rosie Hodge.
Well, Sebastian Zietz coming away with a heat win. I love just the camaraderie that you have with your fellow Hawaiian out there. You told him to go on that bomb. What was going out in the water? Because it does look pretty challenging out there.
I was kind of playing the game, you know, and just trying to stay away from those guys because they waited a while for their first wave. So I was trying to just, you know, there's no real defined peak out there so you can kind of get away from whoever has priority, just get away from him and try to get something going. And that's what I did. Got that little 6, and then I saw that TP coming to Zeke, and I was screaming at him. I was, go! I just wanted to see him rush that thing, and then, I don't know, I thought he got a 10, and then they said he got a 2, so I was stoked.
just quietly, but yeah, just thinking about the way that you played strategically, even that last left with your priority keeping Ace off that wave, that was pretty smart going.
Yeah, I didn't know how much time was left because I caught a bunch of waves in the beginning. I was like keeping busy, and then I did that big run around, and then I almost didn't make it out, and then I got back out the back, and I had no idea how much time was left, and they're like counting down. I saw that it turned yellow, and I knew there's less than 5 minutes. So I was like, oh, I better start playing the game and get on Ace. And I hate doing that, but it's part of the game, and you know, he'd do it to me.
And coming off a final berth in France, these conditions suit you so much. You must be thinking about a great result here too.
Yeah, don't get too far ahead of yourself, but I do love these conditions. I definitely love waves where you got to kind of hunt it out, and you know, just like pine trees back at home, you got to hunt out the good spots, and yeah, that's what it's like out there.
Great surfing, Seabass. Well done.
Great to hear from Sebastian Zietz, one of the most entertaining surfers on tour, on land, in the water, telling his fellow Hawaiian to send it on one of the biggest waves of the day. Zeke Lau survived the bomb drop, but ended up being one of the best 2-point rides of the season. Just size-wise of that thing, unable to pull in. It would have been a massive closeout section. So we see Mick Fanning with a broken board now. Water Patrol on hand, 6:10 on the clock. We see him with that massive lead, 9 and a 6.5. And we'll see him on the pickup here to see what's going down. Now on the ski and getting out of there. This is what happened. Yeah, well, big wave, just right on the head pots.
Yeah, well, you talk about a lot of your worst wipeouts in big waves aren't necessarily the wave riding the wave itself. It's getting picked off by a set, and that's exactly what happened to Mick. Now, these boards are made out of super light 4-ounce glass, and, well, that thing snapped like an absolute toothpick. So Mick Fanning will make his way in, pick up a backup board. Looks like he's going to take in a few deep breaths. Super caddy Fletch on the beach. Remember the run that he did at J Bay? Absolutely awesome sight.
You're good.
And then Belly tried to outdo him in France.
Oh, the caddies are brilliant.
I love it.
Ryan Fletcher, known as Fletch. It's been in Mick Fanning's corner for a very long time. Mick just asking the question of Fletch. He's like, am I going back out there?
Why am I going back?
Taking a few big ones on the head. He already has a solid lead, and he has Federico and Ian, the rookies combo. Good question, Potts. Why would he go back out?
I'd save your energy, really. I mean, by the time he gets up the beach and tries to get back out in the lineup.
You can see that set that he took on the head took a lot out of him as well, especially with the ski. I think they had a few attempts to pick him up to get him out of there, and he just had to wear more, and it's really hard when you have that broken board next to you, the sharp fiberglass as well. We mentioned that the rookies are comboed. That means the surfer needs 2 new scores to take the lead. You just scored on your top 2. So when the leader gets out front, like Mick did, 9.65, Freddie and Ian can forget about the scores that they already caught in this heat. They need 2 brand new scores. They need to be big as well to come back to get a spot into round 3.
And you can see down to 4 minutes remaining. I'm tired just watching these guys today. There's Mick getting a little bit of support from the boys going, come on, Mick. He's in 2 minds, isn't he? He doesn't want to do it.
He started to run for it. Next thing you know, down the beach, there's more action. The Rip Curl teammates all back-to-back there. Medina, Mason Ho coming up next in round 2. Followed by the heat with Owen Wright and Vasco Ribeiro, who's going to get a lot of people backing him up. And it's going to be the first eliminations of the MEO Rip Curl Pro Portugal. And the guys that are involved in the world title race, Medina, number 3 in the world, will be on deck first, as Fanning is trying to head back out there with 3:10 to go. So Marias now 2.67 on his low score. Didn't predict to see him comboed at this stage. He's one of the most dangerous rookies on tour. He's taken down big names. I think maybe one of the biggest key wins he had was back at Jeffreys Bay when he knocked out John Florence. Answered with a 10 to seal it in a dramatic form on finals day. Federico had to deal with Fanning that day, had to deal with De Souza that day. Medina, John. It seems like a lot of the events this year, they've had a world champ side of the draw, and Federico went straight into that with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I mean, took down some of the best at Jeffreys Bay. You named a couple of them right there with Mick Fanning and De Souza, Medina, John. I mean, those guys absolutely rip at Jeffreys Bay, and for Federico to beat them in that kind of fashion was unbelievable.
But now 2:10 on the clock. Let's see how Fanning got his total out front before breaking his board, before dealing with a lot of water on the head. Things got going with a quick little barrel, just a quick vision for Federico. Came around the corner and did that classic little power hack that he loves. It's reliable, it's high scoring. This time it gets him a 4.17. Then Mick Fanning had so much time and room to stand tall in a beautiful pit. Turned in one of the highest scoring waves of the day with a 9-point ride.
Yeah, fantastic surfing there from Mick Fanning. And then decided to back it up, and that's what you do. That's what the world champions do. They don't leave any rock unturned. They cross their T's, they dot their I's, and that's what Mick Fanning did. 6.5 on the back up. Finds himself in a real commanding position. 15.50 combination for both Ian and Federico.
Minute 20 to go. Gouveia maybe on his last effort to try to change things around here. Sometimes the goal for these guys that are comboed are just going to leave the beach with a big score to carry some momentum into the second round. Ian Gouveia is going to run out of time here and prepare for round 2. Remember, he's on his heels for the Rookie of the Year race and for requalification, since he's sitting 25th on the Jeep leaderboard. And Mick Fanning, with 45 seconds, is probably going, I knew I didn't have to go back out with 5 minutes to go.
Yeah. He's going to be cursing Fletchy right now. Fletchy made him go back out.
As soon as he gets out there, the horn's going to sound, but what a brilliant performance from Mick. He comes into Europe as one of the hardest guys to beat. He had the still has the record for the most wins in France, has the record for the most wins at this event.
Crazy, isn't it? And he's still surfing like he can do it here.
As we'll take a look at the last wave from Federico Moraes. The local boy will be a dangerous competitor into the second round with a big reputation when it comes to competing on his home court here at Super Tubos. About an hour drive from where he grew up down towards Lisbon. Fanning breathes a sigh of relief. He could call it a day with a lot of damage done with that 9-point ride. Backed it up with a 6.5 and will take a big win to finish off round 1 action. Coming up next, the world title race gets exciting. Number 3 in the world, Gabriel Medina, will try to avoid elimination by the wild card Mason Ho. We'll bring in Ronnie Blakey and Strider for the call.
Next seat, please stand by. Next seat, please stand by. Bem, surfistas então da próxima bateria podem apanhar o jet ski para chegar à zona de take-off. Next seat, surfers competing in the next seat, you may catch the assist by the jet ski. Bem, a partir de agora, estas baterias, os atletas vão então poder apanhar a ajuda do nosso jet ski para chegar ao oceano. Bem, independentemente do resultado, vamos aplaudir estes 3 surfistas nesta última bateria. Frederico a ficar aqui em segundo, Mick Fanning a ficar em primeiro, bem, Ian Gouveia em terceiro.
Welcome back to the MEO Rip Curl Pro, Portugal. We are out of the non-elimination rounds and into the dreaded second round with Gabriel Medina's world title hopes hinging on this one, and he's got a very difficult draw up against one of the most creative surfers on the planet, everyone's favourite wild card, Mason Ho. And he's got to watch himself here because a 25th will mean he's carrying 3 13ths and a 9th. Gabriel Medina, and that will probably end his world title dream. Amazing to see him make that jump into 3rd spot on the Jeep leaderboard after the win in France. And we're just about ready to kick this one off. Ronnie Blakey here with Strider Wasilewski. And this is going to be a lot of fun, Strider. There's still some gems out there.
Oh, are you kidding me? That last heat was insane. Mick just went to town. And then we just saw the beginning of this one. We saw Mason Ho paddle up to Gabriel and give him a high five.
I like it.
A little bit of the happy dust.
29 years of age, the Sunset Beach local, who's certainly blown our minds with his performances as a wild card in the past. Puts the jersey on and just doesn't let it stifle his creativity at all. And it's classic style that he brings to the competition. Medina also very creative though, and he's starting to bring some of that innovation back to his surfing in 2017.
We talked about it a bit earlier about how much flow and, you know, how much energy he's bringing. He looks like he's back in form, and he's got all this, you know, world title look in his eyeball, and it just really looks like he wants it. But then when we were just getting ready to start round 2, he was almost iffy about paddling out, it seemed like. And then they got together, they had a powwow, and here we are.
I guess for someone who's in 3rd spot and can't afford any early round losses, it is a little bit worrisome paddling out into a lineup like this against a wildcard who's a great barrel rider, and you just don't know.
Your chances are better on a smaller day when you're just going to probably high performance. But then again, Mason Ho is crazy good against, above the lip. So, I don't know. It's anybody's game right here, because Mason Ho is a world-class surfer. Gabriel Medina, one of the deadliest competitors alive, and surfers. I mean, the guy has got everything in the book: tube riding, above the lip, carves, power surfing. I mean, it's so fun to watch him. And
loving it.
Then you got Mason Ho, who's just a entertaining entrepreneur.
I love it. Just under 28 minutes to go and still no waves ridden. These guys just hustling for a first shot at a set wave. But Mason, his heritage, it's hard to see him out in the water without mentioning it. The son of Michael Ho, a long-time championship tour competitor who won lots of events. Nephew of Derek, the first Hawaiian world champion. But it's Medina who's going to get the first wave of this first round 2 heat. Nice slice, just swooping off the top a couple of times here. So avoids the barrel. There wasn't really one on offer, and goes to turns to get his first number on the board. And that jet ski is going to come into play now. 2 men in the lineup. And Medina quickly scrambles for the sled here.
Interesting. Jet ski assist coming into play here, as it would be a very hard place, just like any beach break here in Europe, to be a jet ski driver. We saw some entertaining moments just off to the side there a moment ago as the jet skis had to climb waves and in and out of the surf trying to help out Mick Fanning in that last heat. Here we go. More action.
Some movement here from Mason. Just stands on the tail for a moment there on the drop. But no barrel on offer, so he'll kick out. Medina will get the better of the opening exchange. A 3.5 for the Brazilian. I love Mason's style. Just classic. A real throwback, and I love him on those bigger boards too.
There's the opening ride of the exchange. Gabriel Medina, nice and clean off the bottom. Power sweep in the corner, looking for the setup. Slams, throws a little fin out, pushes a little water, glides, another little setup snap. So nothing crazy. That's just the end of Gabby's last ride. We'll catch up to that one in a minute, but definitely Gabby getting the exchange, finding flow, and looking like he's ready for business.
Meanwhile, out the back, Mason Ho has a set wave approaching. You can see there's quite a bit of texture on the water at the moment. A bit of wind, hoping that cleans itself up. There's still some magic rides out there. We saw Fanning tap into a couple of gems in the last heat of round 1. And here we go, Mason scrambling to get into position here. It's going to be a very late takeoff, and he gets caught in that lip, and he'll go down. What went wrong there, Strider?
Well, I think he was pretty hasty about finding something and never found it. He wanted to get into position there as that wave came through, and I think the wave before it might have looked good, but he couldn't catch it, and then went to the next one, but he was too far inside. You saw it already almost breaking outside of him where he was paddling for it, so in the wrong position. But you can see him stroking into it. He was just getting lifted and never found the zone, and jumped right into the lip there, didn't he? And just came down with it. So unfortunate. There's Gabby's wave trying to hold off Mason Ho. Just a 0.5 for that ride, but tactic playing in there, trying to trim off and make sure that Mason doesn't have any space to move. Seems to have worked.
He's back out there, and even though he's only got a couple of low-scoring rides, he is out in front at this stage of the game, 24 minutes to go. So again, just to remind you, Medina comes into this event in 3rd position on the Jeep leaderboard, still has a shot at a world title, but really needs to keep the fire burning after a win in France, because he's got a lot of ground to make up on Geordie Smith and John Florence, who's in the #1 position. He's carrying a couple of poor results, a 13th and a 9th, and a loss here would probably put him out of contention going into the Pipe Masters.
Yeah, you'd say he'd be gone. He'd be losing ground on John and Geordie, who have already made it into round 3.
Mason.
Throwing shakas, you see that?
I saw that. Double shakas. Just trying to bring the good vibes his way. He's got priority out there at the moment, and he has to make it count on this next wave. Has a quick look at that one. He's got to be careful with that priority, not to surrender it. Looking for waves. Obviously, Medina's got all the experience here. So Mason's going to have to be sharp. He taps into a pretty good-looking wall here, and he's going to find the exit. Fades back. There's some of that style that we mentioned. Always making it fun to watch. And he gets another cover up, and he's just S-ing his way through to the inside now. And he gets the claw up, waving too. Gabriel Medina out the back there.
Talk to me about that style. That was Mike Ho coming out. That was his hand in the back there. That's what Mike does. I just cannot take the smile off of my face seeing Mason Ho surf, his style, the activity, the body language, the whole thing. It is just a pure pleasure. This man is an entertainer, and I thank you, Mason Ho, for bringing the game.
I like it. I love the fact that Rip Curl nominated him for the wild card. Here's the replay once again.
Quick under the hood, then that stylish lean back into the bowl, then throws down the drag, gets, the movements are all there. The maneuvers are there, the tube time, but in between it all, the style, everything he's doing, he's just all about it, and I love it. I think it's part of the show. It's part of what we come for, the entertainment, and Mason Ho never fails.
No one else brings that to the Championship Tour competition. Like you said, he's getting the points. He's getting the barrel rides, but it's what he does in between that makes it so fun to watch. There's nothing manufactured about his technique or style. It's just pure feel, and well, it's in the DNA really. So waiting on the numbers to come through. 5.83, the single highest score of this heat so far, and Medina's got to be feeling the pressure somewhat, because Mason isn't feeling any. He's just out there having a good time.
I saw Mason Ho in the locker room just before, and he was in his wetsuit, and they were about, 15 minutes before the heat was supposed to start, and he was like, I got to get out of this wetsuit. Get me out of this thing. And he was just so psyched to get in the water. There he is on the back of the ski trying to get back out into the lineup. So, ladies and gentlemen, these lineups are so hard to navigate on the jet ski, trying to get to where you need to be. You know, being a jet ski driver, to get back out into the lineup is probably one of the hardest jobs there is when it comes right down to it. I believe that's one of the guys from Nazare, and, you know, you can imagine punching through waves at Nazare. So they got some of the best guys down here in the world trying to help them out.
Out the back with just over 20 minutes to go, the 23-year-old Gabriel Medina gets himself into a wave that opens up and provides an exit, and he throws a huge alley-oop to finish.
Well, the entertainment factor is through the roof for this heat, Ronnie. I'm excited to be here calling it with you, my friend. It's one of those things where you just get so excited to watch these guys surf, as the entertaining value from what they can do in their technique as surfers, in and above the lip, in the barrel, everything they've got. Here we go, grabbing the wall, getting the stall, a little cover up, nice one, looking for it, kind of telegraphing it a bit, but came down a little too far back off of it on that air. So you can see him kind of grab the wall. He gets himself a nice little tube. He comes out, and then when he goes for the alley-oop right here, he just comes in a little bit too far off the back. So timing a little tiny bit off. Tube time was pretty nice, but, you know, nothing huge, and just stuck to the board though, huh? Just probably 1 foot off right there as far as where he landed. A foot out further towards the beach, he would have ridden straight to the beach on that one.
Yeah, that wave just bending into shore a little bit as it tapered off, and his projection wasn't forward, and as a result, he landed on the back of the wave. But just like you love Mason Ho and the fact that he brings all that style to the competition, I love Medina's aggression when he's on a wave. You know, he really holds back on a section. I think it's maybe been a lack of aggression earlier on in this season that cost him some big heats, and he's clicked back into that winning form where when he's on the attack, he's so hard to stop. And once he starts catching a few waves, you know, he'll really throw everything he's got at some of those airs. He could have just gone for a safety turn there and notched a decent number, but he gives us something to get excited about, throws the alley-oop. Had he ridden out of it, it would have been a good number, but he does find himself now sitting out in front with a couple of low-scoring rides, and he's got to be wary. Mason Ho with priority has a great opportunity here to cause a massive upset in the first heat of round 2 on day 1 of competition.
Let me just tell you how this is going to go. There's going to be a great exchange right now. Mason Ho is going to take the lead, and then Medina is going to come back in the end of this thing. And if he stomps it, he's going to get the win. If he doesn't, he's going to lose out. But this is one of those heats that is just so fun to watch. And you know what? I think Medina, he is hungry. He wants it that bad, and he is wound up. He's ready to go. And he's just savage when it comes right down to it.
I like it. Putting the call out there, so expecting fireworks on the next exchange. 17.5 minutes to go. Medina out in front. Mason, though, only chasing a 0.57 to get into the lead. Let's hear from the winner of the last heat of round 1, Mick Fanning with Rosie Hodge.
Well, multiple winner archer Mick Fanning. It was such an incredible heat. The runaround, the board break, the runaround, and the decision to go back out.
I had a look at my watch, and it was still 7 minutes after I broke my board. I was like, I can't really come in now. It's a bit weird. I should have, though. But yeah, the runaround killed me, and then the paddle out just kept going and going and going, and then I was almost out the back, and then that one landed on my head, broke my board, and then I had another about 3 or 4 on the head. It was just, I'm sure the boys up on the balcony enjoyed it. I was laughing too, but I'm pretty gassed.
Besides the test of your fitness, I mean, mention you being a multiple winner here, highest heat total of the day. It seems like you have a great relationship with this place.
Yeah, it was fun, you know. I got down here just to watch Parko, and yeah, got all fired up, and so he had a win. Ethan had a win this morning too, so I was fired up to go out and have a win, and yeah, that 1-9 was really nice. It sort of reminded me of Off the Wall, really, and yeah, just sort of, I think it's just, you just got to go out there and just expect nothing and hope for everything. So.
And you know, you mentioned Ethan Ewing. He actually mentioned this morning how stoked he is to be staying with you guys. So how cool is it to just give some insight to the grommet?
Yeah, it's great. You know, he's a great kid, and he's had a rough year. You know, he's got so much talent. He's just been coming up against the big guys every heat, and you know, we sort of, you know, I guess we for Joel and I just to pass on some info for him, you know, even just to get his confidence up going into next year, or even just Hawaii. You know, I still believe he can still qualify in Hawaii. So, yeah, we're just trying to pump him up, and he's doing good. We play some pranks on him too, which is good.
Keep him humble. Well, great surfing as usual, Mick. Well done.
Thank you, Rosie. Mick Fanning, you could hear him taking in those deep breaths. It is taxing out there today. Some serious swells, some of the heaviest conditions we've seen on the Championship Tour for 2017. And a heavy situation here for Medina, up against a very tough wild card. And he's trying to get rid of a 2.9 on this ride to get ahead of Mason Ho. Bit of foam on the face, no issues for Medina. So he just unloads a number of big backhand blows to that right-hander.
Solid surfing. I think to the opener of Medina, the backhand hacks, they didn't go very high on the first one.
And I think they've got that, you know, comparison to make to Mason Ho's ride. It was a bigger set. He got pretty barreled, faded out of the pit, came up under it again. So he has the highest scoring ride still, a 5.83, but Medina has extended his lead. His last ride came through at a 4.6. So Mason now chasing a 2.27 to get in front.
Last of red, Gabriel, a 4.6.
Look at the texture out the back. So here we go. Rolling in, comes around off the corner. First snap, pretty solid. Little downtime here, but then finds a great connection on this little section.
14 minutes remaining.
I feel like that was one of the better turns of the wave, being the last turn. And almost a full point higher than his first ride.
So smart, isn't he, Medina? You know, just probably thinking that he's going to apply some pressure to the wild card. I mentioned that Mason's not really going to feel it, but if he gets in a position where he feels like he's really within reach of causing a huge upset here, the nerves might start to come.
It might. It's one of those things that I think Mason's pretty excited about just sitting there and finding himself a good wave. He didn't take that wave, and I think he didn't take it because he's riding a little bit bigger of a board. He wants the tube ride. He's searching it, right? He's out there game planning and thinking about one thing. So we'll see how that plays in. He doesn't need much. I mean, even after that last wave of Gabriel, still a 2.27 is the requirement. So I feel like he's comfortable. We'll see what happens here. I think that last score, Medina.
Well, you can hear the crowd on the beach cheering, and you just know that they're getting excited about the next matchup, which we'll see Owen Wright take on Vasco Ribeiro, the wild card who's made the semis here in the past. But right now, it's Mason using his priority on this wave, fading hard and hoping to get an opportunity at a pit on the inside. This wave does nothing for him. So he just handed control back to Medina with just over 12 minutes to go.
Well, that wasn't what we wanted to see. I think Mason got a little excited and saw something in that wave. He's gonna get himself some space and try and find one now. Medina, priority out the back, very comfortable.
12 minutes to go, and the 2014 world champion is out in front. Coming up next, Owen Wright up against the wild card in Vasco Ribeiro. That's coming down in around about 12 and a half minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Aqui para a zona de competição, pais do Francisco Sá, de 12 anos, então, o vosso filho está lá. minutes, 45 seconds remaining. Priority with red, second priority blue. Score coming in. The last of blue, it's not going in. Blue stop
2. Welcome back to the Rip Curl Pro Portugal. A big heat unfolding at the moment. But if you have missed any of the highlights from today, don't forget, you can message WSL on Facebook for It's On alerts or sign up at worldsurfleague.com for It's On emails. And of course, not miss a single heat. There's also the heat analyzer at worldsurfleague.com where you can see all the highlight rides. And of course, a couple of hours after each day of competition, we also have the replay of the whole day. So as I mentioned, you won't miss a single heat. At the moment, Gabriel Medina leads Heat 1 of Round 2. How impressive has Medina been in the past few seasons at climbing the ladder after a slow start to each season the past couple of years?
Well, he was in 4th place here last year, right? So for him to be in 3rd place, one step closer, is a dangerous thing. I mean, once he tastes a little bit of blood, you get to see the sharks eat, and he's one of them. He loves the battle. He loves the game. He loves to put his head down. He's so enthralled by competition and the level of it. What's happening? He's probably looking at, you know, everybody in this contest just going, I want it. I want it now. He's going to do anything he can to get it.
Such an amazing surfer, and he has had victories here and also over at Pipe. So he's going to be very dangerous and scary for the front runners, John Florence and Geordie Smith. The prospect of Medina catching fire here in Portugal.
With a 5.83 and a 0.5.
So deadly.
The requirement for blue, it's
had some very strong results here in the past, so we'll see how he fares in 2017. Mason Ho, though, needs next to nothing to get himself the lead here. Just a 2.27.
Not a whole lot. I mean, there's time, but the time is winding down here, and you know it's going to be interesting to see what happens as this thing goes through. Because obviously Gabriel's got priority, but he's spending a lot of time sitting around his opponent, who's just kind of sniffing out a 3 or a 4 just to put the pressure on. And well, that's a kind of a dangerous position, whereas Gabriel could get a good wave out the back and really kind of put himself into a commanding spot.
Well, Medina just looks pretty composed out there at the moment, not frantically paddling around the lineup, keeping a close eye on Mason. And Mason really wants to get priority back going into the final stages of this heat. So he's on a big sell mission at the moment.
Imagine being in a heat with Medina and trying to separate yourself. He's just not going to leave you alone. He's going to paddle everywhere you go. He's going to make sure he's on you. And he doesn't want to give you any opportunities.
Well, Mason's best bet at this point in time is just to find anything. Obviously, he'd love a 10-point ride, but just to get himself the lead back, because then Medina will be forced to catch a wave in the final stages.
Or even just catch a little one and get some separation. Get away from him.
Second place, Blue Mason Ho, chasing at 2.27.
6.5 minutes remaining here. Time ticking by. Some big heats in the second round for the top seeds. Owen Wright up next. He'll be taking on Vasco Ribeiro. Heat 3, Adriano de Souza up against Stu Kennedy, and the Felipe Toledo, a former winner here, taking on Leonardo Fioravanti. So it's going to be a fun afternoon, that's for sure. This is the round I like most. Bit of a sicko, huh?
Well, no, you know, it's good to see the ups and downs of the tour, and this is definitely where you're going to see them.
Well, world title campaigns could come to an end this afternoon. Magic rolls for low seeds and wild cards. Guys trying to fight for requalification. They could begin right here in the late afternoon. So A lot on the line as we get down to the 5.5 minute mark. And Mason starting to look a little bit more engaged and locked into this battle. I think he senses a big opportunity here. These two guys on the same team, so have enjoyed traveling the world together on free surfing missions. But they're not thinking about that at the moment. As we see Mason taking off. A nice entry into this one. He's going to kick out though. Should he have ridden that one to the inside and gone for a couple of turns? Maybe tried to just seek out that 2.27 Strider?
I think he's just looking for space, trying to get away from Medina and find himself down the line a little bit. Because you can see Medina's going to go hunt him down again and try and find the peak where he's going to be sitting. So maybe, yeah, I mean, give him enough of a score to have Medina need to take off on a wave and then get priority back. Is that?
I'm just thinking that Mason's in a great position at the moment because Medina's not going to block him for a 3. Medina wants to get a better score than a 3.5 to increase his lead. So Mason, he can afford to take a chance on some of these rides. Medina, though, is taking off. And on the backhand, goes straight up into the lip. That spray just accentuated by the wind. So he rolls through to the inside and gets another solid finish. So surfing so well. He's not finding the barrels out there, but he's building his lead. We'll see, though, if that one goes into his top 2.
Could have been better than the 4.60.
We'll see. A massive opportunity for Mason, though. He's got a 5.83. I don't see that score of Medina's going higher than Mason's 5.83, so he won't be chasing a big number in the final stages here.
It was a good combination of maneuvers, though, by Medina. 3 in a row. No, not much in between. Pretty well linked together here. It was kind of a drawn-out bottom turn. But he got a little slice under the lip, a little late to the party. It was kind of a setup snap. This was a strong turn. I think you're right.
So it just falls under the best ride of the heat so far of 5.33 as we see the replay from the DJI drone. So Medina extending his lead, but Mason only needs a 4.1 at this stage of the game to snatch this round 2 heat.
That was interesting. I didn't see it being, well, it wasn't a point higher. I mean, it was still, it's hard because you go back and you look at those waves together. I don't know. That's pretty, they almost got the same score as Mason did on his double barrel wave. So turns to tubes.
Different approaches. Mason Ho finding some cover. Medina looking so solid on the backhand and finishing his waves off so well at this stage of the game. It's a scrappy affair at this point in time.
The 4.1, the last of red was a 5.33.
You'd have to say at this point in time, though, the advantage, 2.5 minutes to go, is still with Mason. Has the single highest ride, has priority, and only needs a 4.1 to snatch it from Medina, who's in 3rd place on the leaderboard. In danger of falling out of contention if he drops this heat.
This is going to be interesting if we get a set on our hands. Would love to see this thing come right down to the wire, watch them both get good waves.
It's worked out perfectly for Mason because Medina hasn't had a shot at a barrel ride just yet, and we know how good a tube rider he is. So, you know, as the more time wipes off the clock, the better the situation for Mason, really, because if Mason can get the lead, there'll be very little time for Medina to turn it in the final stages. Obviously, if there's no more waves, it pans out pretty well for Medina, who's done a good job just to get himself in front and keep building on this lead.
You got the tide moving in right now, too, which is going to slow down the pace of the sets coming in. And I think the tube ride opportunities as well. So I think going to the turns could be an option for Mason Ho. I mean, he needs a 4. We've seen what it takes to get a 5.33, which was basically, you know, 3 okay turns. There wasn't anything really dynamic, and he still got the 5.33 on that wave. So we'll see what happens as this thing plays out, but he's going to wait for something. He's got to be careful, though.
Medina happy to keep looking at these insiders, and he'll throw an alley-oop and stick it. So good under pressure at executing those kind of moves. And we knew that he was going to bring that kind of excitement to this battle. Looking to better a 4.6 with that move. Just one individual turn, but a lot more progressive than one of his earlier scoring rides. And there's only 40 seconds to go, and Mason's still out the back. He might be chasing more than a 4.1. But Medina's starting to show that confidence that's seen him plant big moves at the championship tour level in years gone by. We saw it in France. We're starting to see it now here in Portugal. 15 seconds to go. This will be Mason's shot at it. He's going to go. Not sure what kind of number he's chasing, but this is a closeout. 15 seconds to go. They're counting this one down now, and that's going to be it. Gabriel Medina, tactically as sharp as we've seen him, and he gets the job done against the wild card, and he is going to be super relieved because it seemed like the conditions were working against him somewhat. Couldn't find the wave with the barrel, but in the end his surfing was too strong. Executed the big alley-oop to finish, and he's going to snatch a victory and avoid a second-round loss. Let's have another look at the alley-oop here, Strider.
Yeah, it was a clean maneuver, nothing crazy like we're used to from Medina, but it was definitely done with confidence, which is something that is dangerous when Medina has confidence, like we've talked about. So clicks it, pushes it around, beautifully executed. You know, I think, 4.5 or something for that, or something along those lines. Either way, Mason, I think, sat around for too long in that heat, and you needed to do more. You need to be more active.
Well, he turned in a pretty decent number. It was his best, in fact, to snatch the win from Mason Ho. And he is into the third round. A solid effort from Gabriel Medina, and the crowd absolutely eating it up. And he breathes a sigh of relief there, because that was a very, very shaky performance against a very difficult wild card. Another big heat coming up in just a moment. Owen Wright will take on Vasco Ribeiro. You're watching the MEO Rip Curl Pro Portugal.
Esta é a bateria 2 da ronda 2.